A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
War. The Republic is crumbling under attacks by the ruthless Sith Lord Count Dooku. There are heroes on both sides. Evil is everywhere. In a stunning move, the fiendish droid leader General Grievous has swept into the Republic capital and kidnapped Chancellor Palpatine, leader of the Galactic Senate. As the separatist droid army flees the besieged capital with their valuable hostage, two Jedi Knights lead a desperate mission to rescue the captive Chancellor. What is up, everyone out there in the Bombad universe? This is Gerry, the Canon Junkie. I'm your boy here. I am sitting with my good friend and co-host, Scotty J-Ro. Scotty, how you doing, my friend?
What is up, y'all? We are here. We're closing out the prequels on this Bombad Buildup. I am absolutely stoked, and yeah, man, we got a very special guest today for this episode, and that very special guest is a close friend of mine. Went to high school together. Didn't know each other that well in high school, which is kind of funny, but throughout Celebration and throughout our college years, we've grown closer, and that is my friend Eric Kottemann. Eric Kottemann, what's up, dude?
What is up, Bombad fam?
There we go.
Have I heard that term before on the podcast, or is that a new one?
I don't know. We use it with the Facebook page, so I guess.
Oh, we use Bombad fam on the podcast. Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well,
Bombad fam.
what is going on, fam? I went from a Easter egg now to a spoken role now.
Yeah.
So feeling pretty good.
You're official. You're official now. You are a part of the Bombad fam. So there you go. Our cast is ever increasing. So
Awesome. Well, y'all surprised me last time, and I wasn't nearly as nervous. I was just I was just driving, and y'all called, and you're like, "What did you think of the trailer?"
You were driving?
Yeah. You were driving when you called.
I think that's why I was so calm. I'm a pretty calm driver, I guess.
Right.
I don't know, but anyway, I'm glad to be here, guys.
That's okay.
No,
Yeah, good to have you.
can I give a shameless plug real quick, Gerry? Is that fine?
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it. I'll give you.
Well,
give it to you.
The main reason I'm having Eric on is because Eric was a part of our Celebration group really this past year, and we just had a blast together hanging out. We did what was it, 3 or 4 panels together, and we went to the Ultimate Clone Wars panel. And when we were at Celebration, Eric and I were talking about a movie idea we had come up with that past December, and we were like, "Oh, we need to really get on that. Let's talk more about it." And I met his friend John, who was also there, who was helping us make this movie. And so I guess my shameless plug is Eric is directing, and he helped write. Would you say you wrote? Yeah, I guess you wrote.
I have story credit.
Story credit, yeah. Me, Kevin, our friend, and Eric, and my good friend Chase had all been working on a film together, and so we've got it in the works right now. We're going to do some pickup shots this month, actually, and we're going to do a lot more editing throughout this month. But anyway, so if you want to see Eric, I know Eric's not a part of this he's a part of the Star Wars community, don't get me wrong, but he's not like the Twitter fiends that we are.
Right.
We're not like the Twitter
posting every
Twitter
second.
whores.
Literally every second. But yeah. So Eric, it might be a new, a fresh, I guess, face to this community now. We might be inducting you into the Twitter community.
Yeah,
so
We'll see.
Good luck. We'll see how this episode goes. But,
well, a member of, what do we call it here? The One and Only Club. So there you go.
the one and only Eric Kottemann.
The one and only Eric, for sure.
But
no, and I joke about giving you time to plug, because that seriously, I'm so excited to actually watch this film and stuff
Yes.
I got all kinds of behind the scenes photos and stuff that Scotty was sending me this summer, and seriously, you should look out for this. This is gonna be just a fun watch. So.
Yeah.
Exciting! Look, that trailer. The trailer is up right now, right?
Yeah, it is. The trailer is on YouTube. I gotta look up as Owl's Nest, and it's posted under 3 separate pages. We haven't made a Facebook anything for it just yet. We're waiting until we have a little more, I guess, stuff built up and ready. But I actually sent Gerry the What was it? Probably shouldn't have. Might get mad at me.
Shot.
Yeah, the thing I made.
Yeah, we're gonna put out a version of what you just watched, Gerry, like a shorter version.
Remember that thing I sent you about a month or two ago? I said I worked on this all night. I want to see what you think of it, and it was that like weird song. Yeah. So that is gonna be coming out hopefully. Ooh. Maybe
you guys can all be jealous. They can all be jealous of me.
Yeah. So to make exclusivity.
But it's crazy because the whole reason like I do that kind of stuff probably is because of Star Wars. So I'm excited to talk about this movie in particular.
So I knew when we were doing this Bombad Buildup, this would be the person to have on because he's got a I wouldn't even say it's a bold statement. I guess we can really get into it right now.
Let's do it, man. Let's just dive right in.
I wanted to bring up the Clone Wars panel, but we'll bring that up later. What does this movie mean to you, Eric? Like, why this movie? Why would I have you on for this movie? Say it.
Do it. My favorite Star Wars movie ever.
I love it. I love it. Take off the shirt. Take off the sweatshirt.
That's awesome.
Now, when we were sitting down at Celebration, I think Scott was running like some early podcast test on me because he asked me the famous like, "What's your favorite? What's the best Star Wars movie? And what's the most fun?" And 2 out of those 3 were prequels for me.
God, that's awesome.
So
nice.
And, I think we live in a world right now where it's like you got this like 0 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 attitude.
Yeah.
So like people might like lose their minds if they hear someone say Revenge of the Sith is their favorite movie. But like everything is subjective like in this art world. And this. Yeah. So for me, I have like plenty of subjective reasonings on why Revenge of the Sith is my favorite one. Do I think it's the best Star Wars movie? No, but who cares?
Yeah.
It's just like
there you go.
It's Star Wars, and it was it came out like at a really important time in my life, like, deciding who you are, like in terms of like I was 10 when Revenge of the Sith came out. I'm 25.
Oh my gosh. So, don't say that, Eric.
I mean like that's a big part of it.
Cool.
I mean that's the age you're like figuring out like, am I a Star Wars nerd or but like dude, even back then like I kind of kept it to myself because even my closest of close friends like they watch Star Wars but like I don't know. I don't even know if we had like the baseline as children to be like a junkie for it because I don't know like the EU was kind of mature, honestly.
Yeah, it was very mature.
It's a little like out there for like a 10-year-old.
Yeah,
sure.
so that's one of the really nice things about Disney Star Wars, and
they've approached it very much from a perspective of a kid should be watching this now.
Or just like I think we're about to get into the era where it's like Star Wars is for anyone. Mm-hmm. Because Mandalorian is not like there is not a single thing I've watched where I'm like, oh, Gerry, like I know you have a daughter, but I don't think she's old enough to be watching Star Wars. But
oh no, she watches like, and we were just watching. It's funny, we were watching. I'm trying to watch through A New Hope for the our next episode of the Bombad Buildup. She was like watching and like I'll post the video maybe later. She was like all excited about all these things and stuff. But then like I've seen there's no way I'm gonna watch The Mandalorian with her until she's like she's got to be over. At least, like,
and I'm sure they'll have some aspects of kiddie Star Wars in it, like some, I wouldn't say kiddie, but some maybe slapstick humor. I mean, Jon Favreau, he's great with comedy, but I mean, if you think about it, The Mandalorian will be a movie that is primarily set for 14. And
that's going to be the one, and honestly, my friend who has not really been keen on the Disney era. Mm-hmm. I just actually reconnected with him this last week, and he was talking about how he's unbelievably excited for Mandalorian. Yeah. So it's a really cool. I 100% agree, Eric. Yeah, we are coming to that point where there's something for everyone now.
Right, but tying it back to Revenge of the Sith, this was a time where like this was the end for me.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
Right.
And I was 10, so I didn't really have that many expectations, and like. I remember like being excited for the video game because the video game may have come out before the movie. I don't know. You might have to fact check me on that one.
I think it's.
But they showed a lot of scenes. That's why I'm wondering. But I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that was at a time where I wasn't like aware of like marketing and inside of media. So like, you know, I think I bought Battlefront 1 because I played it a lot, and then like the next week Battlefront 2 had come out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was just, you know, George Lucas is like a marketing king. Yeah. So like I knew how important this movie was, and maybe just on like a surface level, and I didn't really understand, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember it was the end of my 4th grade. We had like this big like 4th grade like ceremony thing. Like, you finished. You're going to middle school next year. Yeah. And then we went straight to the movie theater.
Dang.
And,
nice.
The one thing I'll say, I just remember the scene with Anakin when Palpatine like tells him that he's a Sith Lord. And I remember just being a kid being like, kill him.
Yeah.
Do it.
That'd be
do it. I mean, like clearly, you know, like that's not what's going to happen. But I don't know. It was a really important movie for me. And when we get into it, I'll say some more things. I'll say some more things on why, even story wise, I think I have like another bold kind of. Hopefully, you guys don't lose subscribers after this one. But so far, I've discussed this with some friends. I think the sequels have not been telling as good of a story as the prequels so far.
Well, you got to think that, in not that we. I mean, okay, that is a bold statement, but I will agree with you because, but it takes a place over 2 days by now, 3 days. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
I think, right now we've really, it really isn't. Scotty, I don't know how far you are into Resistance Reborn, but you feel how much that feels like.
Yes.
Just like a period of like a few days.
Yes.
It's like Ray's like still like reeling, like what the heck is going on? I was a scavenger like 2 days, like a week ago.
Yeah. Well, footnote. I mean, I really do like the sequels. Like, I'm not a
No, I know that.
I genuinely love Star Wars.
Yes.
Like, probably not as much as you guys, but you know, like I really do. So
he would VIP ticket celebration. I mean, he's not the. I mean, for our listeners,
this guy's no slouch.
No, this guy is. He flew to Chicago. I mean, he went to Orlando with us. You know, 2 years before that. It's not that he's not. It's the funny thing is, our fandom, we're so tied in on Twitter, and I love it, and I love our listeners for that. But it's gonna be funny whenever we have someone. Actually, this is the first guest that we're ever gonna have on that was not a part of a.
Yeah, like I don't have a podcast, or I don't have an internet presence for my love of Star Wars. It's always been like a me thing, and it's been like a me and my friends thing.
But it's cool that you get to come on this show and talk about especially this movie. This and I guess to kind of tie that in with what you're just saying, it's like the sequel trilogy. I think is going to prove itself really when it finally comes out.
And I'm hoping it has a lot to do with this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Heck yeah.
Jerry, what does this movie mean to you?
Man, you know what? This movie. Okay, so Eric, get ready, man. You said you were 10. I think you guys are about the same age, right?
Okay. Yeah, he's a year older. Yeah.
Okay, so I went to see this movie after I graduated high school.
Isn't that awesome? That's amazing.
I graduated in 2005, and that was my graduation present. Was opening night for Revenge of the Sith, and my gosh, what a party that was!
Wow.
Me and my best friend since kindergarten, Caleb Greenway. Shout out to you, buddy. You're probably not listening, but that's okay. You have a life now. But anyway. We went there, dude. There was a guy dressed as Darth Vader behind us. We were like, there were lightsabers all over this. This is 2005. Just the epitome of midnight showings and stuff.
Right.
It was a midnight showing on
awesome.
Thursday. Or they kind of shied away from this. And, everything. It was just one of the best crowds I think I've ever been a part of at a Star Wars movie because everyone was a fan. Everyone was respectful, but people still were shouting. It was still a little Rocky Horror sometimes. People would shout stuff. As soon as the one memory I have from that first viewing is when Yoda, when they're talking about going to Kashyyyk to support the Yoda says, go to Kashyyyk, I will. Good relations with the Wookiees I have. And someone in the crowd goes, I bet you do. So nothing to. It was a perfectly timed sexual joke. So I was like, okay, that's pretty good. That was it really killed. But besides that, I don't know, just the whole thing was such an experience, and to just see that, it was kind of it's another pivotal time in someone's life, right?
Yeah, definitely for you.
Graduate high school. I remember watching the trailer for that movie during computer class all the time.
Oh, it's awesome.
Like, I'm supposed to be doing my assignment, but I'm like, I'm going to go over to Yahoo Movies at the time and like queue up that thing, you know, because it's 2005.
Yeah.
You know, old and all that.
Gerry.
But no, dude. You know, I won't say this is my favorite prequel. Phantom Menace is mine. I think I've said that on here before. But this is definitely my second favorite of the prequels. And like you were saying, Eric, you know, it's either a 10 out of 10 or nothing these days and stuff. But I don't know, man. It's hard for me. There's hardly a Star Wars movie that I don't like. And I think that's kind of how we all are on here. You know, it's just like we really just enjoy being in that world, and you can't beat. For one thing, this is the best opening crawl. I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah,
right.
I agree, and
but
there's especially with where you at in your life, that seems like a very interesting time, because I was 1 year younger than Eric. We didn't know each other. We went to the same, I guess, community kind of school. We went to we both went to Catholic school growing up, and I'm sure we crossed paths at some point. We just didn't know it. But I was in third grade, and you know, it was same exact story. It was May 19th. I remember getting off of school. You know, we had a little party, whatever it was. Went to a theater near us, and when we went, I remember we sat in the theater. I just never forget the movie ending, and it dawned on me. It's like, this is it. Like, we'll never get this again. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
They did it so well. And I think the biggest blessing about the acquisition has been just that we're getting it. And we're still getting to talk about this movie. Like, it's still relevant. And I'm so glad the prequels that we grew up with and that you grew up with too are still relevant. And enough for us to do a episode about it and talk about it. And yeah, I guess if anyone wants to say why they love this movie in particular, I know Gerry kind of brought it up, but this movie kind of does start off with a little bit of a bang, you know, and it doesn't stop. It actually is a very well paced movie. It's slow when it's supposed to be. It's fast when it's supposed to be. Yeah. It's respectful when it's supposed to be. Then it's George Lucas kind of goofy, campy when it's supposed to be. Like it's kind of odd. It's not like Attack of the Clones where it's kind of segmented. Like this whole chunk of the movie's really slow, and this other chunk of the movie's really fast. It's probably another thing too. It just dawned on me. This movie's storytelling it's linear, but it jumps so much. I mean, you figure out Padmé is pregnant, and then by the end of the movie, she has the baby, and you're watching a 2-hour movie. It makes.
I always assumed it. I don't know. What do you think the timeline is on this?
I have no idea. I think there is an actual answer out there.
Star Wars, like, when you just watch it, like, Star Wars has never been one of those movies where you watch it and you go,
wait.
Yeah. So 3 months have gone by. Or
2
weeks have gone by. Or in this case, 2 days have gone by in the sequels.
Right.
Yeah, you know. But that's, like, one of the cool things about it. It's just, like, got that kind of space odyssey. Like, you don't even think about time. Like, you just...
Right.
At least not like somebody who, I don't want to say gets it, but like maybe somebody who like didn't understand, like if you just sat like cold turkey, somebody never watched Star Wars and you make them watch like Empire or you know, and they're just like, so how long was, you know?
Yeah. Empire is one of the culprits I hear brought up a lot for sure, but
that's one of the beautiful things about it. Like you don't necessarily need to, like, guys like y'all.
Absolutely.
I know, like, when there are concrete answers about that kind of stuff, you eat it up.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't make that big of a difference story-wise.
No, it doesn't.
How long.
Yeah,
but like,
it doesn't make it a better story because you know that Luke was on Dagobah for 2 weeks or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. That's not
Time
not a
moves different, all that. It's weird. It's like... It brings up a good point. I don't care about the linear, and when I do, it's strictly because someone mentioned it. You know what I mean?
I guess I don't care about the timeline. I was just thinking, like, we were talking about like Padmé announcing she was pregnant and like, having the baby. I just assumed that Anakin had been gone for 9 months, and it was like, hey, by the way,
if you can't tell,
like,
I mean, she's showing quite a bit by the time we're on Mustafar.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't even have a girlfriend, so I don't even know. But from
experience of a man who has a child, who was pregnant. It was probably pretty late in the pregnancy, at least.
Yeah,
So, at least the last couple of months. So.
And I mean, and with Revenge of the Sith, it's just kind of like, well, we know this is going to have to happen. So it's like, I mean, George is probably just like, well, at the end there's the birth scene.
This is like it's one of those movies that like, as a final sequence to a trilogy, it kind of doesn't do what you it does what you expected it to do, yes, but like how it executes it, and that's what I want to get into in this next section before we dive into the story. Gerry, being as you were a little bit older and you might have had friends that had different expectations, did everyone think going into this movie we're going to get like the Rogue One scene the whole time? Like, did they think they were going to get like a Vader hack and slash, like, oh, this is where he becomes Vader and the whole movie's him hacking and slashing and killing people, which we kind of did get, if I'm going to be honest with you.
We got that. Yeah, he was technically Darth Vader.
Yes.
Yeah. I just remember us all being like super pumped to go see this, and we were all just super psyched getting out of the movie, you know? Like, this one has always been everyone's favorite. That's the one thing I've heard is everyone's, because it's, look, all right, you guys know our namesake is Jar Jar. This was the one with the least amount of Jar Jar. It was the one that, had what people wanted to see. I don't know. Going into it and coming out, no, we were all just super psyched to see it. And I don't remember having anyone say like, oh, and honestly, my friends liked Star Wars, like you were saying, Eric. I don't think they were quite as consumed with it. As I may have been at the time. So, but yeah, I did have some friends. I didn't really honestly hear any backlash until I got into college and started working at a movie theater. And then my projectionist friends and all of them, they started going, hey man, I don't know if I quite like those prequels. And so that's when I first started to hear the naysayers.
Well, I think regardless, it's still a great Star Wars movie. If not,
it's amazing.
It's in my top 3. If I could like pull a favorite from each trilogy now, it would still to me it would be TLJ, Return of the Jedi, then this movie. It's like this movie arguably does something that no other movie does, and it sets up a lot of things that actually aren't executed, which is a good thing because it's probably the only time George has ever like mentioned stuff and never really followed through with it. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Like, which we'll get into later. Actually, let's get into it now. Are you ready for the main discussion, Gerry Cable?
Let's do it, man.
Awesome. So, the thing we want to start off with, where are we in this chapter? What is the state of the galaxy? Well, we know this. The Clone Wars is absolutely happening during this. It is absolute war. Separatists versus Republic. The intentions of both parties are absolutely mixed and confused. No one knows what they want. And we know, of course, the reason behind all that is because Palps is playing both ends. The Jedi do not trust Palpatine. Palpatine does not trust the Jedi. And the opening line, one of the opening crawl lines is, there are heroes on both sides and evil is everywhere. It's weird. It's the first Star Wars movie that's like, it's absolute confusion on regards to who's at fault for this, who's in charge of all this. It's really kind of an awesome way to begin this final segment of the prequel trilogy. And Eric, what was that one thing you pointed out in particular about the opening crawl?
Oh yeah, I noticed that in the crawl that the verbiage they use to describe Anakin and Obi-Wan are 2 Jedi Knights are on a mission to save Chancellor Palpatine. That may not be the exact...
lead a desperate mission to rescue the captive Chancellor.
And, that just made me think of like how they described Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in the Phantom Menace. I don't know, just like a cool little thing. Probably not even honestly like something they like consciously thought of. I mean, because I just feel like George is one of those guys who's like, 2 Jedi Knights. Like, like technically Obi-Wan's a master. But
there's a couple Jedis.
Just like, but in 2019, it like means a lot to me that like you still get little callbacks to the other movies, and like now we have. We get to see Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like, this movie is the one that made me believe that he was a good friend.
Yeah,
like, you know,
line. Yeah, great point.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
I mean, that's apparent from this first scene. I think this scene is like Bombad fantastic or
nice.
It's
nice.
It is bombastic.
Yeah, it's bombastic.
Yeah.
It's just a great scene. Obi-Wan's like willing to die, like in this scene.
Yeah.
And Anakin's just like, I won't leave without you.
No.
So you get to see how much like, I don't know, Anakin like truly cares about like Obi-Wan.
That actually plays into the fact that how much he loves the clones as well.
Yeah.
One thing I want to bring up, and I didn't realize it till watching it, and it's one of those. Hopefully, people when they listen to this, they're like, "Man, Scott really does notice some weird things." But it's kind of cool when this movie starts. Of course, they have the amazing drum. Such a good opening.
Love that.
The ships, the Jedi Starfighters, dive down, and instead of being below and I guess a battleship, an Imperial or a Republic, command ship, they're actually above one and they're flying over the top of it. Usually on the Star Wars movie, it starts with a below shot of it. Force Awakens started with it. Empire, Empire, A New Hope did. A lot of the movies start with below a ship. This is the first one that starts with above a ship. So it's kind of flipped of A New Hope. I kind of noticed that they dive down towards it, not like not a belly shot of it. It's kind of cool.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. Maybe at the end of season 7 of the Clone Wars, we'll see their ships blast
gosh,
space. I know. I know.
So that book ending would just be so.
I wish I was in there with you guys so I could we could get like a circle or something.
I really hope we get a really nice conversation between Obi-Wan and Anakin before they take off, because I don't know, depending on what goes on during the Clone Wars, maybe there's like a really big emotional kind of weight. Maybe something with Ahsoka happens again and she really dips. She really bounces.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I've been kind of interested in. I'm like, she's back.
So I think from what people have said, Sam Witwer said it's going to be very unexpected.
Didn't he say that you're gonna look at Revenge of the Sith differently?
Can't wait. I can't wait.
You know what it probably is? They're probably just going to echo Attack of the Clones, where like Obi-Wan's they're going to go to their starships and be like, hey, what do I feel like you're going to be the death of me? You're the closest thing I have to a father, master.
And that's just like how appropriate for Star Wars that like 14 years, or at this point 15 years after the movie, we're going to get some sort of payoff.
It's insane.
I mean, it's so George Lucas-y.
It is.
Like,
it's very George Lucas. Oh my gosh.
And then the fact that, Clone Wars, there was only like 3 years in between the show and then this movie. But again, so very George to get a lot of payoff from this opening scene. So we understand a little more like what's going on years later.
Funny enough, I want to bring it up real quick while we're all recording and talking about it. Our buddy Kevin, who we wrote the movie with, and our buddy Kevin that that I've went to high school with and he went to high school with for years, our very close friend, he is just now watching the Clone Wars and he's like been texting us like crazy, like, man, I love what they're doing with Obi-Wan and this is so great, and he's watching it chronological. So I'm excited to hear his perspective after all this is said and done.
That's epic. That's so awesome. That's my friend that I was just talking about earlier. I got him into the Clone Wars as well. That's such a good feeling.
It is. And like there's a lot of lines, and this is where the fun begins is said, and Locke follows an attack position, and Obi-Wan, Eric pointed this out, I didn't think about this, Obi-Wan gets called Red Leader, so there's a lot of A New Hope tie-ins, like, phrases I didn't think about. And one thing I brought up earlier, Anakin, how he mentions in Attack of the Clones, how compassionate it is. He's like, a Jedi should be compassionate. And it's just a truth to Anakin's character, because he's a true Jedi. Let's be real. He is compassionate. He cares for, and he's also selfish, but he cares for those clones, and he cares for Obi-Wan. The whole movie, Obi-Wan's constantly getting, I guess for the opening 30 minutes, Obi-Wan's constantly in trouble, and who's the one saving his tail? It's Anakin the whole entire time.
Right.
And
pulling him out of the nest of gun darts.
Exactly. And
don't forget that business on Cato Nemoidia.
Bruh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But it feels like a Clone Wars movie. If you could almost cut that chunk out. Like I think you wrote that, didn't you? Did you write that?
I wrote that down. That I was like watching it the other night. I had my lovely my lovely wife and daughter were away at my in-laws, and I had a full night to just sit down and bro out, and watch some Revenge of the Sith, take some notes. And I was like, this just feels like an episode of the Clone. It feels like a big live action episode of the Clone Wars, which I'm like, that's chicken before the egg kind of thing. It's a little cart before the horse, but it's just like now after viewing Clone Wars for so many years, I'm like, this is just they really are pitch perfect.
Yes,
they hit that Lucas delicious Clone Wars flavor. So
definitely.
But we've got to really talk about. No, I don't know. Eric, you're absolutely right, man. This is I'm going to agree with you. Okay, this is the best opening.
Yeah,
this is the best opening. This whole sequence. No other movie, if I remember, no other movie really starts off with this huge, big.
Not huge.
Or
no.
Nothing. No one. I mean, Last Jedi kind of gets into that, but it not in we're gonna dive right in.
Yeah.
The First Order shows up. In that opening, and everything in this entire sequence is pure, unadulterated Star Wars fun. My favorite part being when the buzz droids, can we talk about how crazy it was that George Lucas is like, well, let's make these little balls that they cut the ship apart with a little buzz saws.
It's really clever. I think it's very clever.
I love how much Star Wars weirdness is in this.
It is.
But the fact that when Anakin is trying, that awesome sequence we were talking about where he's scraping them off with his things, after he just tried to shoot him off.
Just trying to save his boy. That's all he wants to do.
Yeah, but I love the one that gets onto Anakin's fighter and goes over to R2. So you've got this whole standoff between R2 and a buzz droid, which who knew that they could make us love buzz droids even more than the Clone Wars, but they did. They did with an awesome episode there.
Yeah.
Just plug for the Clone Wars here. But that whole thing, I've always loved R2's little battle with that thing, and then them cheering him on, going let's hit the buzz droid center eye, because it's like the putties in I'm dating myself in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You hit the Z on their chest and they blow up.
Yeah,
the middle thing, and he does that. But then what makes it perfect is that John Williams score, the da 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 da, a little bit of the Falcon fanfare there. Oh. So good.
I kind of want to bring
Chef's
up
kiss.
One thing.
That's so good.
You bring up a good point, and the fact that they're both rooting R2 on. This is where I'm is it going to be addressed, or is Obi-Wan playing clueless in New Hope? Because the whole time he's calling him R2. R2, yeah. Does he really know the droid? And we'll get in that with our next guest, maybe. Because I hope he does, and I hope the whole time he's we are both very mutually aware of who we are. Don't say anything, I wonder.
I'm wondering if... I'm sorry, Jared.
No, go ahead.
Reading that line, I'm wondering if the rumors about him having PTSD and maybe depression come into effect that, he actually erases... I don't know. You could get deep. And, Obi-Wan, they keep making shows and things that made me love Obi-Wan even more.
Yeah.
He's actually my favorite character in all of Star Wars. So the fact that we're getting Ewan back, and to get maybe some gap fillers there.
Yeah.
I think that could be really cool. Again, this is me going on reverse of what I was saying earlier. This is something I kind of want to know. Just because I'm you have, how many years of the originals, 6-7 years total or whatever. Where he doesn't really acknowledge R2.
Yeah.
I think you could do something cool about that.
Definitely.
But something when you're talking about with this opening, Gerry, not to be this guy, but when I was in film school, we read this book about 70s directors and these auteurs and stuff. And George always had this philosophy about the first 20 minutes of a movie and the last 20 minutes of a movie being so important. And I think that's why you get such an awesome opening.
Right.
I'm going to butcher this, but in medias res, this is a term used to describe when a story or some sort of literary form starts with something in the middle of the action. Yeah. And that's all of Star Wars, and even new Star Wars has picked up on that.
Very well.
And George finally probably got to where he was comfortable with technology and stuff, to where this movie like really starts off with a bang.
Like big
and like you have character moments, you have the goofy Star Wars one-liners that I love. You have Anakin being a hero. You have Obi-Wan like, do you see that the shield is still up and all that stuff? Like, and I don't even know how long we're like. Or is the beginning all the way to when they get in? When they get into Grievous's ship? Are we talking about to when they land in Coruscant?
I think landing on Coruscant. That is.
I almost think it's like Return of the Jedi, man. You know,
it's like Return of the Jedi.
That's true.
Let's go rescue Han.
You got the first mission. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's a thing in these movies, and hey, we don't need to get into Rise of Skywalker yet, but maybe we'll have some kind of weird. I don't know if we'll go quite as big and bombastic, but I think we're going to start out with like a mission.
I think so too.
Doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the film.
Right.
So
it's
just tradition.
I like that. No,
this has a lot to do actually with the rest of the film. So never mind.
Well, one thing I want to bring up too, I think the parallels between the third of each trilogy is very interesting, and you might be right, because this is just like Return of the Jedi. I mean, it's a part of the overall story. It's a huge chunk of the movie. I really do think it's like 38 minutes. I think it's like a huge portion of the movie, but it doesn't really do that much for the exposition of the movie. We just know that
it flies by. If it really is almost, it does not feel
soars.
like.
And I've watched unapologetically. I've watched the behind the scenes on this like way too many times.
Yeah.
The making of these movies.
That's awesome.
And I think they said they cut out a lot. Well, they cut out a whole bunch from
the
this.
deleted scenes from this are crazy. Like, if you really want to...
Well, like, they got the whole thing where they're like, what is it, going through all the, like...
underneath,
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's like the cooling system.
That was the level. That was a level in the...
It was in the game.
In the game, yeah.
Well, and they... Shakti's
original death,
Shakti's original death was in there, and it was kind of... I don't know. Long story short... It's one of those sequences that really keeps giving and for character development. And one thing I wanted to bring up too, for canon stuff, like, people don't realize, like, the droids. All the droids are really goofy in this movie, and I'm pretty sure canon reason is
this was the goofiest
because they were mass produced, right? This is like that was the reason, which is amazing.
Right. You know, one thing I noticed too is every one of the droids, it's like they Mickey Mouseified them.
Yeah.
Because their voices are all like super like high. But that's why it feels like Clone Wars the movie though.
Yeah, it does.
Because
it does.
I love the droid that like comes in through like scoots in between Palpatine and Anakin goes, me. and hands Grievous of things and he like grabs them like really quick. He goes, You're welcome.
That's so true.
Oh. And someone actually pointed out on Twitter this week.
Yes, I saw that.
Noticed that R2-D2 trips a battle droid through as Anakin and Obi-Wan are like slicing up the Magna Guards.
I kind of want to address it now.
There's a lot of little things you could. This is one of those scenes like the arena scene in Attack of the Clones. You can look and see so many different little things happening in the background. So.
Funny enough, when we're watching it, there was a couple of scenes I had to pause. I'm like, what droid is that? Because there's one shot, which we'll get into later with the hello there, that part. And there's a droid I like never noticed before in that sequence. And it was a droid that was, in different sequences of the movie. I didn't know it was in that sequence. But with that being said, this movie kind of does, like, I didn't think about that, Gerry. It does have a lot of the weird, quirky, droid interactions or the super battle droids.
I just can't get this. Well, yeah, the super battle droids, like in the last one, they're like, fire, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then this one is, those are Jedi fighters, all right. It's like, so that's what I mean. It's like, that was the one that really took me by surprise whenever I first watched it. I was like, oh, okay, I guess these guys talk really high now. Yeah. Okay.
What's that? Nothing. This is like
nothing.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's
Hey you.
And funny enough, they actually use a line that's used in other Star Wars movies. I don't know where it is in the notes, but it's there. I'm pretty sure I wrote it down. Maybe it's not. I don't remember. But one thing that was interesting that it kind of dawned on me then, we're watching it, and of course R2 goes to the thing and he scans. They're looking for Palpatine, and he is at the top of the spire of the command ship in that exact chair that looks just like Return of the Jedi. And I'd imagine it might...
Oh, it's so a callback.
Well,
he even spins around.
Yes,
come in.
Yes, I think so. Or he might be. Does he spin, or is he? Was he watching the battle? I don't remember now. I think
he was watching the battle, and as they enter, he spins around slowly. Just
Yeah.
Because he's Palpatine.
Yeah.
He's got to have a swivel chair.
Yeah, he's got to have a swivel chair. But we might. You never know.
For his back.
We might get this in the Rise of Skywalker. So I thought that was particularly interesting. Like the spire being mentioned and stuff. It's kind of funny. It's just the wording of it. And there's one thing I thought was pretty cool was whenever R2's on the comlink and he's communicating with the Jedi, he kind of does this weird peek around the corner, and it dawned on me it's very visually very visually similar to BB-8 doing the same thing in the Falcon. When BB-8 looks around the corner of the Falcon for the first time. So I don't think it was intentional. It might just be a way to emphasize that they're trying to hide.
Right.
But it looked very similar, and I don't know. I like that he has to, he's hiding the beeper from, I guess the pager, the communicator, from the other droids by putting it inside of him and backing up into the corner. R2's got some great moments in this.
Yeah, I like how you wrote in these notes the slapstick humor.
Yeah.
It's like super George.
Very George.
And I think it works. I'm sure there's critics of this, but we were laughing. We were laughing a lot during the opening.
Hilarious.
Dude, okay. Let me say 2005 senior Gerry and all these a bunch of grown people in this theater. R2 killed that night, man. Whenever he rushes in, R2 will be along in a second and he'll release the ray shields. When he comes, that's the best part. When he runs in there screaming, hits her, and then they come up and he shocks. That killed, that slew. It was so it definitely still I agree it holds up.
But he's not just 100%. A joke either. He also destroys those two battle droids with the gas.
Oh, dude, that was a crowd pleaser as well. Yeah. My God, a lot of cheers and stuff.
Well, it kind of made the whole R2 can't fly thing not lame anymore. People had a lot of gripe about that after Attack of the Clones. He didn't have that then, but it's kind of made it pretty badass after he killed the two battle droids.
It still doesn't bother me.
No, it doesn't bother me
he
at
never
all.
really needed it, or they were broken. Who cares?
Exactly. So and you wrote this in your notes. It's they have some really great. Obi-Wan has some great lines.
Yeah, I literally wrote love Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Next to some of these notes. I remember. I don't know if Always on the Move was in the trailer. I don't remember if it was or not, but it was.
I think it might have been
very reminiscent of. I hate it when he does that, which was in all of the trailers for episode 2. But I just to go over some of these quotes. Just they are so on point with Obi-Wan's character. When Anakin says, "This time we do it together," or I don't remember who says it first, but Obi-Wan has.
I think it's Obi.
Okay, and then Anakin says, "I was just about to say that." Okay, so
wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm just getting confused on that. Either way, Obi-Wan's the one who gets the quippy smart line in that part.
I like that.
And then when Dooku shows up, he's that's a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Chancellor Palpatine, Sith Lords are our speciality. I just love that line. Yeah. It's just so funny.
That line is a fine wine.
It is.
It gets better. Because I remember rolling my eyes the first night. I was like, oh, aha, good one, Obi-Wan. Yeah. But now it's just oh, it's so sweet.
It is, because if you watch Clone Wars, the whole entire series is them dealing with Asajj. It's them dealing with Count Dooku, Grievous. I mean, not that they're Sith Lords. It's just especially the episode where they pair up. Such a good episode.
Which character in Clone Wars calls Obi-Wan
Hondo?
Is half truths, and you know what line I'm talking about?
That's Satine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the collection of half truths and hyperbole that is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's amazing because
that's an amazing line.
It's so Obi-Wan, and the fact that George was working on that is so cool.
Oh, so good.
It was such a good wrinkle to put to Obi's character because it just makes the original trilogy. It just adds so much to his interactions with Luke, and then him having to tell him the truth.
From a certain point of view.
It's 100%. Right. From a certain point of view. you and all that.
We're going to take a dive with our next guest on that one, too, because that's a huge thing that I really think should be brought up about his character. One thing I love, and I didn't realize it till watching it, but like my doubles have my doubles have powered. My powers and doubles since we met count. It's kind of weird because this whole dialogue that that Palpatine and Anakin are having, I wrote it kind of parallels how Vader talks to Obi-Wan, like the very same cadence. It's like my powers have doubled since we met count, and it's like this.
I think we started noticing at this screen. I was paying attention during this screening that Hayden's really trying his best to sound like James Earl Jones in the way he's delivering lines, which may come across as like stale and emotionless, but that is Vader.
Oh, 100%.
Like, if you take away James Earl Jones' voice and just give like some if it was David Prowse or something, I mean, I think you would have gotten a lot of similar critiques on like the acting and stuff because
he would have been trying to do like a Welsh accent,
yeah, but I'm just saying like Vader says a lot of corny stuff.
Yeah,
but it's just the way he says it and the fact that he is who he is that makes it work. And then you take off the mask and the voice modulator.
Oh yeah,
and it's I think he's doing it. Like I really think he's doing 100%. It. We're living in an era now where like the prequel love is a little more than noticeable.
It's nice.
So it may have to do with the fact that like younger people are getting older, or the fact that we have more Star Wars. I'm sure it's a mix of everything. But
well, we talked about recently on God, what episode was that, Drew? We brought up how Disney Plus might change everything because you got kids are gonna get put on when they're watching whenever they could be watching. Whatever, Cinderella, they could always put a Star Wars movie on. What was it? I forget.
Right.
Whose episode was that?
I can't really remember. It might have been like right before we started. It might have been with the Galactic podcast.
Maybe. Well, it's weird to think that someone's introduction to Star Wars is not going to be like ours.
Right.
It's not going to go buy the DVD. It's not going to wait for the DVD to come out. Not wait to the theater.
It's going to be like mom's going to click into this and I'm going to watch this, which is mind-blowing. All
9 movies. That's going to be by probably October when The Rise of Skywalker releases on October? No. By March, I'm sorry. Yeah. By March when it releases, it's going to be on Disney Plus probably beforehand, just to entice people to get it, And someone's viewing of this movie is going to be for the first time in order, maybe out of order, and on a streaming service. It's not going to be like what we have now, No slapping a Blu-ray on. It's going to be very different. And I think with that being said, you get a lot of things that you'll notice now, like this prequel love. It's not going to just be it's going to be Star Wars love. It's going to become one thing. Because some generations aren't going to know the difference between the prequels and this and that.
Well, and we're going to have, we're going to have a lot of Disney Plus, like, live action shows coming, which it's going to feel like a movie every week.
Yes.
But we're not going to have a theatrical release until 2022. So we're going to have a little bit of a, I wouldn't even call it a drought. For the sake of this discussion right here, you're gonna have a lot of time for people to really like dive into these things.
Exactly.
And really just chew on those bones. So.
Yeah. I guess anyway.
That sounds like it's dead, but it's not.
Speaking of bones, Gerry, you mentioned about Obi-Wan getting knocked out and then the face squeak. What do you mean by that? I saw that.
Oh my gosh, that I've always noticed that. Like, it makes me. It hurts me every time I hear it because whenever Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting Dooku, they go up on top of the on top of that little balcony, and Dooku like starts force choking Obi-Wan, then ends up throwing him against that other part of the balcony.
Yeah, and
insult to injury, drops it on top of his leg, and it pushes him, and he makes it's like his. It's got to be his face because that's the only thing. It sounds like someone's spare skin like sliding across a gym floor, and I just like, man, he's got to have like a raspberry on his forehead or something. Like he better be like unconscious.
What
if he just like he woke up and there's an alternate take where he's just like screaming? They actually put like a raspberry on his forehead. What happened?
No.
But anyway, that was pretty much it. There's no real like.
It's funny. It's funny to notice stuff like that.
Observation. Yeah, it's just like, oh man, okay, George had to put that little squeak in there. So
now we're still talking about this fight, which is an interesting fight because Palpatine is still scheming. He really wants Anakin to become his next apprentice. But the one thing about this movie that I still do not understand is Palpatine's kind of cheering on of Obi-Wan when Obi-Wan like kills a battle droid or something. They do like this cut and he's like, yeah. And I'm just like, what is that about? Is that just like George being George, or is that like some sort of, was he looking at Obi-Wan?
Oh,
I don't know. Cause I think maybe part of that plan was the Dooku speech in episode 2.
Yeah.
Unless there's a whole sub story with Dooku trying to like overthrow the Sith as a whole. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one of those weird ones in episode 2 that I don't know the answers to. And maybe there are some canon books that I haven't read or something that address that, but
not yet.
But again, not super important to the overall story.
No, that's something to notice because there's a lot of questions you can leave with. And was Obi-Wan initially, because you're actually in Attack of the Clones, the first person that recommends Padmé to be I guess be a security guard. Padmé needed a security guard, obviously Attack of the Clones. And the first person Palpatine recommends is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh. And then they say, we'll probably get Anakin on this one. So maybe Palpatine's playing the cards right. I don't know. But that is an interesting edit. Why would they have thrown that in there if they didn't mean anything by it?
Yeah. I don't know. Well,
he's just really trying to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, maybe Dooku wanted Qui-Gon to be part of the overall plan. Yeah. And maybe he's thinking, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon were so close that maybe he can. And obviously, Obi-Wan probably knew Dooku when he was still a part of it. Was he on the council? I don't know.
Dooku? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's a Jedi Master.
So, but anyway.
I think so. I'm trying to remember.
It's just one of those interesting bits that at the end of the day doesn't really matter. But just watching Palpatine realize that, like, Anakin's going to become my new apprentice. Mm-hmm. And Scott was saying that he just loves the look that Dooku gives him when he's like, kill him.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And his voice, like, he gets into that, like, Emperor phlegm.
Kill him now.
Yeah.
And
I mentioned that in the thing, like, a line that Dooku says, which kind of leads to this part, is, I sense great fear in you, Skywalker. You have hate, you have anger, and you don't use them. And it kind of parallels what Yoda says to him, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate. And then we know at the end of this movie, hate leads to suffering. But Dooku's shock is incredible. It's like he's self-aware that Dooku, that Palpatine is Sidious. He knows that. But, like, one thing I think you brought up, Jerry, why doesn't he speak up? Why doesn't...
Well, that's a criticism I've heard before. It honestly doesn't bother me either way. It doesn't take me out of the movie. But yeah, why do you think that he didn't speak up? Was it the shock? Or I don't know. What do you guys
both of his hands just got cut off.
Yeah.
I'm sure that didn't feel great.
No.
And then, you know the power of these sabers, and his own weapon is being used as a potential decapitator.
Yeah.
And
he might just be completely shocked by the moment.
Yeah.
Was it a willing sacrifice too? I don't know. I don't know if that's quite Dooku's character. But that's another option. I feel like maybe he was like,
"You need to die."
Now I'm getting into Han Solo. Press the button on the
on the lightsaber.
Yeah. Well, of course we get the amazing "Do It."
Yes.
Do it so good, and then
do it.
There's the one line where
best gif ever.
Well, he's starting to manipulate. Palpatine's starting to really manipulate Anakin at this part. He said, "He cut off your arm. You wanted revenge." It's just like he literally says it just like that, and then you hear he mentions, like, do you remember your mother? What was the line? Maybe, I don't know.
What you told me about your mother and the sand people?
And then you're... Yeah. That's dark. And that's very weird for Star Wars. They never do... they'll do audio cues, but, like... I wonder if that was some sort of quick force vision or something, like, back to... I don't know. It was odd that they threw that in there at all. And... I thought it was weird when they were going to leave. Did Palpatine really think that Anakin would leave Obi-Wan? Did he think he'd be like, oh no, we'll leave him. He'll die. Like, you know how Anakin is, and he knows how Anakin is. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing with Anakin on his back, that's another thing that plays into how compassionate Anakin is. He's not going to let Obi-Wan...
I won't leave without you, Master.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
He's 100% loyal to his friends. Like, he's not going to leave them behind.
Yeah, at all.
Ultimately, that's the good part of connection. It's just that, unfortunately, Anakin, we'll get into it, it causes him to... I don't know, he ends up going towards the dark side to save someone. Luke is the one who ends up actually showing how connection can help a Jedi. So anyway, there's a little foreshadowing.
Definitely. And Eric noticed this when we were watching the movie together. I want you to say it because I didn't think about it.
Gerry, you might be a master and you might know exactly what I'm talking about. But the sound effect that they use when Dooku's head gets decapitated, it's just really like... It almost sounds like rubber against a violin or something, just like that kind of noise.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I'm talking
about? Like the echo.
It's kind of deeper than like a normal like guitar string or something.
Yeah.
Like it sounds kind of deep, but they use that sound effect somewhere in the sequel trilogy, and I cannot figure out where.
I think it's when Rey's on the ship.
It has something to do with Rey.
It has. I think it's when she's pulling it. I think it's when she pulls that thing off the Star Destroyer. First sequence where she pulls it.
Maybe you can add an edit right here if we figure it out. At 58, Scott.
Okay.
And I don't know. That's just like an interesting... Because that's one of those like audio cues. There's a lot of cool stuff in the sequel trilogy where you can put on like Bose headphones and watch like the parts of like scenes. But I think this was a little more. I don't know. If it's the only time these two sound effects are being used in a trilogy where they claim that Palpatine was the end goal, I don't know.
Yeah,
it could get my heart pumping. So we've been talking about this like first scene a lot. There's a lot of great stuff in it. I mean, I think you could probably do a whole episode on this scene.
We could do like 2-part episodes.
On the scene alone.
And then
the rest of
well, I guess we can blow through some very simple things. And Eric, I'll say, Eric pointed out some stuff I didn't even notice. The R2 head scanner part is just like when, his head pops out all the droid bodies and that have fallen on him after the ship had gone sideways, which is incredible. I think that's such a cool part of storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
But his head, the little head scanner that pops out of his head, same exact shot in Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. And Eric noticed it. I forgot about it. And the physics are kind of funny. But when they're falling and they have the grappling hook, Eric noticed it's literally almost shot for shot the same exact look as when the grapple hook grabs onto the thing in A New Hope. Grabs onto the little, it's cool. And it's the same exact prop looking thing. It's just, I don't know. I love that. But yeah, I like our introduction to Grievous. I think Grievous, as a kid in the 3rd grade, I had a cardboard cutout of Grievous. I don't know if I ever told you that. I can pull it up on my computer. I had a cardboard cutout. Grievous was the coolest villain. And I wrote on here, I thought Grievous was a very good like B-movie villain. Like he's like a Bond movie villain. Yeah. He's just like over the top. He's got a coughing problem. He walks kind of crazy. He's trying to escape. He's got all these weird technical things, and he has 4 arms. It's just, I don't know. I liked it.
We've never had anything like him before, and probably will never have anything. I mean, they tried to do like that Admiral Akbar version, like Admiral Akbar, like a oh crap, why am I? Mon Calamari head on a Grievous body.
Oh yeah.
But we've never really ever really have anything quite like that original. And what
bizarre.
is this?
Yeah.
So bizarre, but in the best way.
Yeah, I mean, Grievous is like this physical representation almost of the Clone Wars. Like, he's dying. Mm-hmm. The Clone Wars are ending.
Good point.
Like, it's just like another pawn in Palpatine's plan.
Yeah.
It's something that doesn't really matter, but...
He's going to get killed off anyway.
He's going to get killed
off.
Another
cyborg like Vader as well.
That's true.
Except he's a willing... he was a willing participant in getting those enhancements.
And I know there's like new canon that go into Grievous's backstory, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Kalish.
Yeah, for a hardcore fan. But ultimately in this story, he's just another pawn.
Right.
And it is a cool villain, and it has a lot of Obi-Wan payoff, which we'll get to in a little while. But
he's like, George is so good at doing the merch. And, like, to me, Grievous was just a merch ploy. And that's okay. Phasma was. Let's be honest. Phasma and Boba Fett were both merches. Like, that was strictly for merch. I'm going to be real. Like, you can just tell. It looked cool. They did cool things for a couple of scenes, and that's it. You know? Right. And, like, Grievous to me was... I think Grievous was used better than Phasma was used, and used better than Boba Fett was used, if you're going to think about it from that aspect.
If you're talking about, like serving the story and, like, their presence, I agree with you, probably. There's this really cool A New Hope callback Scott and I noticed when Anakin walks in the room.
Yeah.
And he says, Anakin Skywalker, you're shorter than I expected. And then Anakin comes up with some, like, quippy response.
Yeah, but the shorter than I expected is like...
Oh, no.
That's what Anakin says.
He was like, I was expecting...
Because he says... Grievous says, I expected someone with your reputation to be a little older.
And he says, you're shorter than I expected. Which is a kind of a cool Leia callback.
It is.
When she's like, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? I don't know. Just, like, cool little things like that.
Yeah.
And then there's Gerry. This is another Jedi Master question for you. Is this
you're giving me way too much, man?
I'm appointing you as that guy right now.
All right, cool.
Is this the first time Anakin and Grievous meet? Like during the Clone Wars, do they ever cross paths?
I have watched through the Clone Wars a couple times because I had people come. I had that friend. He was like, but they've never seen each other in that. Anakin and Grievous are in the same episodes, but they never see each other. And the one time they're in close proximity is that episode where like the Gungans capture Grievous, and they're taking Anakin is knocked out, and they drive him past Grievous. And Grievous is like all like
held down, right?
Bound up and held down and stuff, and so they pass by each other. They play with that. But yeah, this is actually, you guys heard it here first. This is the first time that him and Grievous actually meet face to face.
That's awesome.
So
cool. Yeah,
the canon checks out.
Cool.
I love that, and
it's a crazy detail. They really, I don't know how they pulled it off because there were so many times. I don't know. They did kudos to Dave Filoni and George.
Well, that's what
and the rest of that.
That's what Eric brought up in the show notes. He wrote that George was always consistent. Like his consistency has always been really good. And of course the ship's breaks in half, and I love it. It's chaos. It's really well choreographed chaos. And Eric pointed out, and I never thought about this, the music cue of this is super interesting. And Eric, he was in a band called the 501st.
I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, and he was. Nice. They put stormtroopers up on their stage. You know, like they would put Phase 3 clone troopers up. You know, on their amps and stuff that they had bought.
Oh, nice.
And like, I guess I don't know. Like he would play the Force theme to end every show. So like, just another plug.
Yeah,
dude, that's epic.
But he noticed, and I didn't think about it. We're watching it as the ship's going down. The Force theme is playing, and then they have Duel of the Fates.
Kind of underneath it,
undertones underneath it.
You feel like a
and then the Force theme is playing.
It's a lot of stuff.
It
layered
is
right there.
That scene in particular, and I'm going to be honest, and we're going to kind of break the story aspect of it. This CGI still looks absolutely incredible. Like
it still holds up good.
It is unbelievably good. Like Attack of the Clones
it was the one whenever I got my
and Phantom Menace had some stuff. This one, everything looks so good.
This one's great. Yeah, and this was the first one. Whenever I got in 2011, I got those Blu-rays. Man, this was the first one. This was the one that looked the best.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, all of it was so crystal clear, and then all of the effects still looked good.
Yeah.
So it was.
Yeah. Every time that there's an establishing shot of Coruscant, I'm just like, dude.
Gerry, you didn't see Jerry's notes, but Jerry's notes were full of it. He's like, every shot of Coruscant's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, the Coruscant cityscapes are, I said, they were breathtaking in this movie. And my gosh, I'm a sucker for cityscapes and just those, I don't know, the Art Deco architecture of Coruscant is so good. I would love to get a little bit more Coruscant.
Agreed.
Maybe we'll get something DeLorean or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Well, us three were at the Doug Chang panel together whenever we at Celebration, everyone listening, we were all in the same row, and that's the first thing that they approached was like, how are we going to make this look different than the originals? Like, we're going to go for like an Art Deco, very like, you know, smooth aesthetic, more so than the other movies. And it's this particular with the Coruscant, you know, shots. I think the technology was finally there to make it look like ultra realistic, and it did not disappoint at all. And Eric noticed a really funny line that I want to. I guess if you want to bring it up, I think it's so.
You can talk about.
Oh well, okay. So a lot of these, you know, if you watch a lot of this, feels very George Lucas-y. You know, of course it does. It's his movie, but like some lines in particular, like this one. The ability to pilot this thing is irrelevant. It's like, it's just so, that's not human. Like, humans don't say things like that. And like,
I've always wondered, I'm like, how are they flying that? The thrusters are gone.
Go on. They must be moving some sort of, I don't know.
Well, and how about the first time and only time we've ever had extend all flaps and drive fins?
Yes.
It's the thing within Attack of the Clones when he's like, jettison the spare part canisters to me.
Just, what? That's
like,
there?
Of course, all ships have this stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Of course, when the ship goes down. I mean, visually, Eric, like, I saw him like getting giddy, and it's funny because I don't pay attention that much to this kind of thing. But the shot from when it lands and it does that huge zoom, the huge push in zoom all the way to their faces, and then of course they rock forward. That is amazing. Like, that is seriously so good. Especially in regards to, like, it adds weight, and of course I have a pretty good sound system, so like when that happened, you like felt it, boom, and you see them all in the cockpit, and we're still flying half a ship. No, he says, another
happy landing.
Yeah, another happy landing.
Another fantastic Obi-Wan line.
One little thing about Obi-Wan, like through the beginning of this, like he like makes little comments that are just like affirming how much he hates flying.
Yes.
And it's just one of those like cool little character traits. And I think they kept up with that in Clone Wars.
Yeah, they did.
Honestly, I'll be honest. It's been a long time since I watched through Clone Wars. When it got first put on Netflix, was the first time I watched it. I never watched it on TV.
In 2013.
Yeah, I was in college, and me and my roommate at the time, we would just like watch a couple episodes every night. And
with Disney Plus.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely do some revisiting, especially with season 7 coming around, but just like I think they kept up with Obi-Wan's hatred of flying in that show. Definitely. So just like the little comments he makes, flying is for droids. Like,
it's amazing.
And just all this stuff. But you know, we're finally on Coruscant, and we're finally getting
a bit further into the
little implications of like what the story is going to. And before they get off of the little, I guess, like cruiser to get onto like the main platform, Obi-Wan's like, it's your day. Someone has to be the poster boy. This is like affirming that friendship. And I really love, they have about 3 conversations, and if you want to count the one at the end, like you and my brother, like you got like these like real kind of
friendship,
friendly conversations. Or like not the last one being like a betrayal of friendship, but you get like these really cool, like, you know, someone has to be with the politicians. Like, that's something like your bro would say to you. Like, if you were a Jedi and one of you didn't want to have to deal with that, it's like, no, like, today's your day. Like, you go do this. So,
I'm gonna go back
just like, you know, that kind of stuff makes me laugh in a good way. And Anakin starts talking to Bail immediately, which is kind of cool because this is the man who raises his daughter.
It's weird. And they talk about Palpatine. It's like, I don't know. I didn't think about it until I watched it.
That's a good pull. I didn't even really think about that.
Yeah,
you know,
they walk and talk.
Casual conversation.
Yeah. But this is the man who's going to raise his daughter, and you know, Star Wars is a family affair in space.
It is.
You know.
Yeah.
And
it's a soap opera in space.
And they're talking about Palpatine, who could be more or less Anakin's father.
Yes, which is
something which is a big threat, I think, may or may not get answered in some sort of canon, maybe December 19th of this year.
Possibly.
Well, there's one thing I want to point out too, especially like, and maybe I actually wasn't brought up, and I don't know why, but it's cool that Anakin also wears all black. in this movie, and I should have brought that up earlier. He has an all black outfit with the brown belt, or like a little bit of a brown tunic under the black, and like it kind of parallels, Luke's attire. And when he, of course, is done talking with Bail, he ends up walking over, and Padmé like kind of calls him over, and I mean, she's got the buns, she's already got the lay hair going, so I think that's cool. Right. She did an Attack of the Clones, so I guess it must be a, must be a thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Eric pointed out something really cool when we get the whole reveal that Padmé's gonna be a mom and Anakin's the dad and they're having a baby in an hour and 50 minutes and you know what I mean? It's just like it's when it's brought up, Anakin reacting having kids. Eric pointed out that's probably the best acting Hayden does. It's so genuine. It's like if you were in such an awful situation and someone had to drop another kind of heavy ball on you, not that having a kid's going to be a heavy thing, but in the situation that they're in, this would not be ideal.
Yeah,
good. And he handles it great.
May I, from the one of us who has a kid, it's a heavy thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing, but it is like life-changing for sure. And what I love about his performance there's so much, you see the fear initially. Like oh my gosh.
I have to handle that.
This is they're going to find us out. Like this is
someone's
an immediate joy.
Yeah.
He's so excited.
Yeah.
But just that initial moment of fear is so good. Like he really nails it.
Yeah.
I wish I would have wrote the quote down, but he's like, this is the best moment of my life or whatever. Yeah. Like, or this is the
happiest moment.
Yeah, just
which is kind of tragic with the rest of the movie.
That's crazy. That's a good point. It just as a viewer it's not going to go well, which is kind of cool.
Just like even I don't know, I'm just like rethinking about his whole like performance there, that where the line delivery, the first thing he says to her, he's like, that's wonderful.
Yeah, like, that's true.
About it at first, he's like, no, it is good. It's good. But you're absolutely right. That is a fantastic.
That's probably the best scene between the both of them.
Yeah,
and
by a mile.
And I don't know where I read this or heard this, but like apparently they were dating in real life at one point during production or shortly after, or maybe during the first movie.
Right.
So that could be a cause of some of maybe the awkwardness in some of the other scenes.
Yeah,
possibly.
Good.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
But I mean. This is just like a great scene.
It is, and
it's not very long either. But it's just.
But you see what it does to his character throughout the movie, and like it's interesting.
And this is the setup for character motivation. This is the reason why every decision he makes from this point on, and you get it in this really great moment. And I wrote in my line.
It's that fear.
Whenever it's over, and I don't know, do they even go back anywhere, or does it cut to them in bed?
I think it cuts. I think it cuts straight to the dream.
Them and having the dream, and I wrote in my notes. It's very. I don't know if we have any viewers of the Disney Channel on here from the era of 2000 to the era of 2008, but That's So Raven was a huge show, and the big plot of That's So Raven was every time she had a vision, it was the cause of her having the vision, right? It was the outcome, because it would be crazy outcomes. Like spaghetti would be on some dude's head and he's in a hot air balloon. It's like the reason that happens is because she has this vision and she acts on the vision and not let it happen naturally. So like Anakin having this vision, and
that's so Anakin.
It is. That's so Anakin. No, Eric mentions, or maybe it might.
Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I think that is so Raven. Sorry, that's Zach Galifianakis joke, and I'm his doppelganger. So
you are. No, I don't remember if Gerry, did you mention how the first instance of the Jedi having a dream was kind of like
this is the like Anakin has the dream in the last one, and they actually for the flip and Blu-ray added in Pernilla August going Anakin, or so like calling out to him. The theatrical version, it was just silent, and it was him like shirtless,
breathing. Maybe the 2005 DVD was that too,
which was way more appealing to most people who were into the, shirtless Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, at the time.
It puts a damper on it when you put the sad dying mom sounds in there. But no, this is the first time we actually see a vision or theme in any Star Wars film. So it's just kind of hey man, this is the just one step away from Rey's vision in The Force Awakens, and then the flashbacks of Last Jedi. So
I think Eric had brought it up.
The beginning.
Yeah, you did bring it up. Yeah. You brought up how this initially was like, of course, JJ and Ryan kind of had a force back, or they had a flashback, but this is Lucas's like own version of it. It's their dreams. It's probably a little bit more clever.
This is going off the cuff that I'm like thinking about it now, but what's interesting about Anakin's vision is that his is like surrounded by darkness, like literally.
Yeah.
Like he cannot tell exactly he does know what's going on, but we as the audience, it is visually presented as like you get like these shadows over it.
It's like tunnel vision.
Right. As rays are very clear.
Yes.
But what's going on, we don't understand what's happening.
That's a good point.
But Anakin, he's like, you die in childbirth.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he like sees.
Right.
And that's a great scene.
So.
It's because it's that's we assume that's the night after, right? So, to me, that's an interesting point. That's a fantastic point because back in Phantom Menace, that kind of lends a little more to the line from Yoda saying, "Clouded this boy's future is."
Yeah.
Just kind of an interesting. It's almost like, even Anakin can't really see the full picture. Very interesting.
Oh, what's up?
I was just gonna say it's like really nice to get a visual representation of like the Jedi's ability to see into the future, because a lot of them are just like, I can feel this, or I can sense this, I can feel this, right. Or even the Sith are like, they claim that they see things, or like, even in the
Palpatine is always like, I have foreseen.
Yeah, foreseen. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice as an audience member to be like, oh, well, maybe this is what it looks like for some, maybe this is what it looks like for others.
There's actually a couple of shots in Clone Wars that do that same effect as well when someone's having a vision.
Cool.
So that it is almost like George is like, this is what it looks like for the majority of people.
Gotcha.
So,
that's awesome. Well, one thing
it was a cool little.
It's one of those things like in like I said, the thing of dreams. Anakin's the only one that talks about his dreams. Luke doesn't, if I'm not mistaken, he doesn't. But Rey brings up her dreams, or if someone kind of Kylo Ren taps into her mind and sees her dreams. It's like dreams are this thing I really wish could have been more dived into, because it's something we all go through as human beings. Dreams are very odd. Dreams have meaning. Some dreams don't have meaning. So like, I'm glad that George kind of took from that, because dreams are a lot of what storytelling is rooted in. And one thing I wanted to bring up before I get into the set design of this particular set that they're on, it's amazing. But the story of Padmé and Anakin, like two different classes, being such different people with different lives, that's so ancient. Like that storytelling is so mythological and
almost Shakespearean.
Very Shakespearean.
Yeah, it's very Shakespearean.
And this set in particular is very Shakespearean. It feels like a stage. It feels like if you were to watch a play, the part where you die at childbirth, that whole action, and that they actually end up returning to that set a ton of time. A lot of pivotal scenes for Anakin and Padmé happen on that set, and it's a beautiful set because I think it's when Padmé walks in, you see Anakin sitting on the couch.
It's very Grecian.
Yes, it is
a little ways it too. Is. Like with the columns and all
the art, and then like the little lights that all come on at once. That was beautiful. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is beautiful. But like, it's odd. It's almost.
Padmé's apartment. This is where they have the meeting about the rebellion and the deleted scenes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
which I want that. Oh, I want that in there. So
yeah. So like more scenes like in there, and like she's got a pretty nice pad.
Yeah.
Like I guess that's the benefit of being a once queen, now senator.
Right.
And it's kind of funny. We were like joking about how like Anakin was like spending the night, and like there's Jedi dorms or whatever. But I guess you don't have to like check in.
No, maybe not at a time of war.
Yeah, there's no curfew at the Jedi dorms.
There's no summer camp kind of lights out.
You gotta clock in.
He what if he does the whole thing like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off or something? Like he has like
fake cold,
like a go away.
One thing that Eric pointed out, and of course they mentioned the the name of the necklace. What's the necklace's name? You always say it.
Japorcin. I got a gold one for my lovely lady at Celebration.
I didn't know that. Maybe I didn't realize that.
I did.
What a romantic.
carved it for her out of a Chapor snippet. It'll bring you good fortune. Yeah, okay. All right.
Well,
now I'm spoiling.
Well, you wrote in your show notes that Han gave...
Anakin and Han are the only characters, as far as I know, who have like this weird sentimental value for a necklace.
Like trinkets.
And trinkets.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, Han was like crazy about the dice.
Yeah.
And Anakin, not Anakin's probably not as crazy about it because even though they're both used for luck or whatever, Anakin's is more like a throwaway kind of like player line, trying to get a 14-year-old girl.
It's like, here, I care about you. Take this thing, but give me.
And Anakin uses it as a distraction. You know, he says, "I remember when I gave you that necklace." Mm-hmm. And then you know, Padmé says, "Like, well, when are you going to start telling me the truth?"
That's true. It kind of does paint, because it's a time of war. I mean, this is not an easy time for anyone. You can talk to. I mean, I remember talking to my grandparents about it, and they were very young during World War II. But it was very in times of war, like you tend to kind of focus more on the big picture and not the personal level of a lot of things. You know, and I think that this movie does it really well. As Anakin being a war hero, he can kind of like just go off. You know, like it's not a big deal to leave, and we see that a lot in this movie. And it's very interesting because the next sequence, Anakin goes straight to Yoda before anyone else to talk about Force visions. And Eric pointed out in particular, half of Anakin's face is dark and the other one's shined by light, where Yoda's completely in the light.
Right.
It's of course George's visual storytelling more or less.
Wow.
And
I thought this was interesting because they never really established any sort of relationship, at least in the movies, with Anakin and Yoda.
No, but
my Clone Wars knowledge is a little rusty, I will admit. So I don't remember if that's something that they revisited.
There is that big in the lost season of the Clone Wars, the lost missions, the season 6 that came out on Netflix. I almost said it came out on Clone Wars. When Yoda is that whole thing when he kind of gets like, what is it? They kind of like put him in the hospital wing of the Jedi Temple. And are keeping him under lock and key because they think he's kind of losing it. Anakin is the one who helps him escape.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I forget that.
He's like, he called him there because Yoda knew that, well, Anakin's the troublemaker, and so he'll know how to get me out of here, you know, and it'll still be okay.
Yeah.
You know, loves Anakin, so.
And then I think there was I even think there was one of the Forces of Destiny, or one of the YouTube cartoons, I might be mislabeling it, where Yoda watches Anakin do some sort of training. And he's kind of in like old school Yoda, kind of laughing, kind of goofy mood, and him and Anakin have a bit. But anyway, that goes to show that that's,
I think that is Forces of Destiny.
Okay,
right.
That goes to show that like watching this, when I watch these prequels, like I tend to go back to like my mindset when I was like first watching them, and so just from like these notes, it was just strange to see Anakin go to Yoda. I mean, there's 10 years in between these two movies, so obviously Anakin has some sort of interaction with Yoda. Definitely. He values him as a master.
Yeah,
obviously to the point where he's going to go. I don't even know if he's like getting like advice. He's just like getting interpretation at this point about his dreams and visions, and Yoda gives him this like really nice antidote.
Well, yeah, I wanted to read it real quick. He of course, he's like, you know, you fearing someone who you know, your fears of someone, you're losing someone you're close to. And then I love this line because it's such a Yoda line, and it's kind of true too. The fear of loss, the path to the dark side. Careful you must be when seeing the future. Rejoice for those who are transformed to the Force. Mourn them, do not. Miss them, do not. Attachment leads to jealousy. And then Anakin bows, and when he does bow, Eric noticed his face goes from being half in the shadow to being completely in the shadow. So we know it kind of predicts what is going to happen to this character. You know, it's
well, and you know, Anakin even in Attack of the Clones, he's had his foot firmly in both camps, even all the way through.
Yes.
The Clone Wars. The Clone Wars is great because we get to see him like tap into the dark side every now and then, very subtly.
Definitely.
But yeah, so that's a great. I never noticed that before. That's a great pull, Eric, because it's that's how he's been, and it's almost like that's the moment where he like his face falls because he knows he can't.
He can't shake it.
Can't.
Well, there's
can't shake that.
There's no.
Yeah, it's almost like he falls into shadow at that point.
There's no answer that the Jedi can give him. There's no fix.
Right.
Ooh,
at that point.
Right. Brings in a good point, though.
And he's almost defeated by that point. He's like this established thing I'm a part of.
That's not the answer I wanted. That's not the answer.
That's not the answer I'm looking for.
And
because I can't lose Padmé.
No,
not like I lost Shmi.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, you say that, and the next person he goes to is, bada bing. Palps.
The Phantom Menace.
Uncle Palps.
The Phantom Menace. Yeah, dude. No. I love you, Eric. Okay, so
yes, Anakin. Give me a hug. Point. How are you, my boy?
He goes directly to the person.
Like a cigarette.
He goes to.
Sorry, death stick.
He goes directly to the person that might kind of tell him what he wants, and not that he knows, but
he goes to the yes man.
Yes.
Palps has been he's under the guise of being a mentor. He's basically just telling that kid
exactly what he wants to hear.
I'm watching through all these now, like with where I watch these movies about once a year.
Yeah,
but still, just something this year has hit me. Like Palps is, oh my gosh, I just am so.
He's a dirty dog.
The entirety of the prequels. I mean, I love him and I hate him at the same time. He's the bad guy you love to hate.
Well, no, I wanted to bring up something out of it. Like, he is just playing to Anakin's faults, and he's like, oh, you're the best, kind of like he did in Attack of the Clones, saying how the best he is. And one thing I want to bring up in particular, and I have this in the show notes, Jerry, under the Palpatine thing. If you want to look at it, he literally calls Palpatine literally calls Anakin son. And that's huge to me. Because when you hear the word son, you only hear it in very specific situations. Like Vader calling Luke son, Leia calling, Kylo Ren their son. Like, for Palpatine to say the word son might really imply something much larger in the, in the grand scheme of things. Especially for Anakin's birth, maybe. I don't know. It's just...
Eric's birth, too?
Eric's birth, yes. Eric's birth as well. So yeah, to hear that word son is very interesting because it's only used a very handful of times in Star Wars, and I always think, what could that lead to? And of course, Palpatine goes into be the eyes, ears, and voice of the Republic. Kind of gives Anakin this power that no one else has, and they need you more than you know.
He's playing him like a $2 film. Man.
For real.
Oh, I just made that phrase up. I feel like that. Well, I don't know what a $2 fiddle is.
And we have some sort of like hint, nudge, nudge in the comics of Palpatine's.
Yes.
His creepy dad selfie.
But his very possible manipulation of the Force and creating Anakin. And I don't think they would give us that answer in something so... I don't want to use the term inside baseball, but like
no.
That's not bad.
You're absolutely right, though. You're absolutely right.
I would say probably like 87 to 90% of the audience of Force Awakens probably has not read I'm probably giving it a little too much credit. Probably hasn't read a single Disney canon thing, so you're not going to give a big thing like that away in a book because. We want to make money, baby.
Yeah.
Like we want to tell a good story.
Get that cheddar.
Yeah. And like I think I wrote this somewhere in the notes, or actually this had nothing to do with y'all. I have a group text with some of my nerd friends, and I was talking about how important dropping these kind of big things are in the movies, and people who like the extra auxiliary kind of you get to learn. What certain terms mean. Like I was reading the main Star Wars line and I saw what a nerf herder was. Like I literally saw what they do. And I was like, oh, okay. Now sense. I know what that is.
Yeah.
So, but like, you're not gonna waste 3 minutes in episode 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, and be like, this is what a nerf herder is. So, but something like Palpatine being Anakin's creator
would be.
I think I would say. I would take the over on 50%.
Yeah,
like
me too.
Of him revealing that some way or another.
It would just destroy the Skywalker lineage, and I want to end the conversation with this honestly because I don't want to close this out right now. I love what we're talking about. But
all right, everybody, see you later.
Well, I want to get into that much later because that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to say is that. The next cut, of course, is now he went to Yoda he went to Palps, and now he's at the Jedi Council, and they're discussing war-based things, and this is where Anakin, you see that fall, and you see that change of character, that I don't know, like Godfather, one change of character. And you haven't seen The Godfather yet? No,
I've seen the first.
Okay, so like you see that change of character.
Yeah.
Michael Corleone. It's one of those scenes. It's huge, and he gets to the council, and they're kind of, it's weird. People don't think about it, but the Jedi are probably one of the main reasons Anakin turned, and they're never going to admit that because they're all kind of stuck up jerks on the council.
Well, that's one of the beautiful things of the prequel trilogy, yes. Right? That George did, but none of us really we were all like, oh,
way later,
he's doing the Jedi right.
Yep.
No, and he was planting seeds that like they were a little bit responsible for their own downfall.
Exactly.
You see, it gives Yoda such a great arc through all three trilogies now. Because I say all three.
Well, it's true. No, you got a good point.
He comes back, he comes back in Last Jedi and has this very, almost his thesis statement of what he's learned from his entire arc and stuff.
Oh, and
all goes back to that, man. Like the Jedi, they weren't a religious movement or anything anymore. They weren't just people following the Force who wanted to protect other people. They were like a political police force, basically. Yep. I don't know.
It's huge, and it's weird because you can tell Qui-Gon Qui-Gon could care less about being on the council, but for some reason in times of war, maybe Anakin should have been trained by Qui-Gon because Qui-Gon didn't care about losing the rank of master, but Anakin, all he cares about is being the best of the best, being known as the best of the best. He's way more materialistic, and I wrote on here because the councils are like, no, Palpatine's like, I want you to be my eyes, ears, and I want you to be my voice for the Republic.
Right.
Where the Jedi are like, you're going to be like our secret spy to spy on Palpatine. And I wrote in my notes, and I don't know if I know Eric, Gerry, I don't know if your parents are separated or not, but
no, they're
I come from a family of divorce, and like that was a huge thing in my family, and like it was awful in some extent. I kind of like that they separated, but that's personal opinion. But I know that feeling of like you have one person telling you, no, I want to know what your mom is doing, and you have the other side telling you, no, I want to know what your dad is doing. And like as a kid and as an individual, you're like, who do I talk to? I mean, these are both my parents, and like he's stuck between these two sides that are just so personal and awful, and he has to make a choice, and it ends up not being the best for him as a character. And like it's something that people don't really dwell on and dive into, but Anakin's primary falls because of too many people telling him what to do and him not being able to think for himself. And you see that at the end. I've brought great pride to my empire, like it's just he loses his mind. And I feel so bad because the next part is Obi-Wan's like, why are you asking this of me? That's pretty much what Anakin asked him, and he goes, well, no, the council is asking you. Obi-Wan wouldn't want Anakin to do this. Like, you could tell.
Obi definitely has some trepidation. He's like, we kind of need to know this, but I don't want to ask you this.
And this is where the Jedi Code starts to kind of fall apart. And I think Eric might have wrote this down, but it says, war allows for treason. Our allegiance is to the Senate, not to the Chancellor, And like Anakin pretty much summarized, like, this is okay? Like, you're telling me this is okay, but you've told me this was wrong the entire time. It's that's a great conversation that's very underrated.
Yeah, I might have written this next quote too, unless Gerry, if you wrote it, I don't mean to take this from you, but this is where Anakin says, doing something against the Jedi Code and against a mentor and a friend, when he was talking to Obi-Wan about Palpatine. So, but again, this is all a part of Palpatine's plan. He knows this is how it's going to go down. He understands that Anakin will think with his emotions.
Oh, definitely.
And this was a line we kept writing down through this movie. Use your feelings, search your feelings, and he's being told this by Palpatine and Obi-Wan.
It's crazy.
And I think somebody else may be telling another Jedi, search your feelings. Yoda tells Obi-Wan, search your feelings, and you'll know the answer when he doesn't know if it's Anakin who's killing the Jedi.
Awesome.
So it's just like an interesting kind of line there. and you get this like tug of war almost.
Yes,
and Anakin's in the middle of it.
And he's the one that's the rope. He's like the one that's just being pulled both sides, and that could be both sides of the Force too, and both sides of the war. And one thing I really want to kind of touch upon is like this conversation is so heavy for the story, and it's probably the only lull in action. Probably the only like this divot of conversations that Anakin has to have, and it's almost not very George Lucas-y. It almost feels very drama. It feels like it was written by someone a little different. It feels very, it's not too wordy. It's just, it sucks, you know? I'm sorry, not that it sucks. It's just like, I said that's so weird. It sucks to see Anakin go through this as a viewer and a fan of Anakin because you understand him. Like, imagine if someone asked you to do that.
Yeah.
You know, spy on your best friend.
And
you
then
know?
Obi-Wan immediately reports...
How messed...
Go ahead, Jerry.
As I was just saying, how messed up is it though that he calls Palps his best friend? What were you gonna say?
Oh, I'm just saying. Then Obi-Wan has to go report to Mason Yoda. He's like, Anakin didn't take well to his new mission, and then
the great line.
They start talking about his position. Mason's like, I don't trust him.
Yeah,
like in front of Obi-Wan, which I'm just like, okay, like that's interesting.
Padawan, like
it's only been like 10
this
years.
Is my friend.
And Obi-Wan's like, he's never let me down. Like, he will do good.
Yeah.
And then there's some, like, back and forth, and he goes, is he not the chosen one?
Oh,
and then Yoda says,
a prophecy misread could have been. It's so freaking awesome. Because
it's so
now it makes you question the prophecy, and it makes you question that character. And that's a hard thing to put on a small child. Like, you will bring balance to the Force. Like, damn. I mean, and then he has the Force vision of Mortis, which is obviously not true, and not the Force vision, but like he doesn't bring balance to the Force. Or is the Force even ever going to be balanced?
Right. It's just almost like a testing of if can he those two people in check.
Yes. I think the chosen one thing might be one of those things that may get answered in this movie.
Oh, it's just
but the thing is, yeah, you gotta. That's the definition. Like, what is balance with the Force? I wish my friend Troy was here because he has a really good take on.
Hey, maybe we'll get him on after Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, he would be a good one to have. But I think that's one of the things that we might get answered. And then the scene after this is the big famous opera scene, isn't it? He goes back to Padmé and tells her how upset he is that he didn't get granted the rank of master. But because of that, Padmé then, which is really kind of cool, she kind of mentions, like, I don't think we're fighting for the right side, you know? And I'm pretty sure Anakin's like, wait, what do you mean, you know? Or you sound like some sort of separatist. It's very dialogue, I don't know, wordy. I don't know why. Not dialogue wordy. It's, They kind of speak to what's happening in the whole scenario of Star Wars, and she notices that this republic is slowly changing to an empire, you know, and
it's very exposition.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you. Yeah, where it's almost like Rick O'Lee is back in the saddle again. There, Captain Exposition.
Exactly.
Just saying, this is what the plot is right here.
Yeah,
this is the note we took, and I think probably at this point, Padmé has already been having secret meetings with the rebellion leaders.
Yeah.
So she's probably gearing up to tell Anakin. Because I remember in that deleted scene, they're like, you cannot speak to anyone about this. And she's like, not even close friends, not even like your family.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, no.
God.
Just because they're starting to notice that things are changing. And so she doesn't even tell Anakin, which is crazy. Yeah. And canon or not, I don't know if you can talk about that in terms of like, since it didn't make the movie. I
consider that canon. I would consider.
But it's kind of funny because she's getting on him about not speaking his truth, and there's like this whole part of her view on the government that's changing, and I don't know. It's interesting the fact that it didn't make the movie.
Yeah, I kind of wish it did. To a certain extent.
But,
It would have given her more of an arc.
Yeah, it would have.
because what it is now, it's kind of like Anakin comes and talks to her a couple of times, and then she comes to Mustafar at the end, you know.
And it's good for her character. She had a lot of things happen in Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
But that would have put her like on Leia status as like big three.
It would have. You're right.
Unfortunately, she kind of gets the short end of the stick when it comes to the big three because she is part of the big three in this trilogy.
Right.
Palpatine actually kind of takes the other three in this movie in particular. It goes from being primarily
but you know what I mean, like in terms of
like the Han, Luke, and
in
Leia.
terms of like this trilogy, especially with Phantom Menace. Mm-hmm. If you look at it overall, the big three are Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. It's just different because there's such a different age gap that you can't fulfill that. Hell, we can't even like do a version of that in the sequel trilogy so far, just because like
Kylo
it's
Ren.
a different story.
Yeah.
Who's the big three?
Right.
In this one? Is it Kylo or is it Poe, Rey, and Finn?
Yeah, because that's kind of a heavy topic to me because I would say Kylo is one of the big three, but he's not a part of the side we would be calling.
But that's a whole different. Like I think Kylo's honestly like depending on how this movie goes, he could be the main character.
Yeah.
Two halves of the same protagonist, right?
But you know, Star Wars, it's always tough to say. I think the original trilogy is the easiest one to be like the main character's Luke.
Yeah.
But that's like I think that's a product of its time, and then Star Wars became so much bigger than that.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
But so I don't know. That's just one thing about this trilogy that's like a weaker part. But the stuff Padme. Story-wise, what's going on with Padme is very important.
It is, and
yes,
it leads into another important scene that a lot of people kind of seem to forget. Not the opera sequence, but the way it looks. Everyone's got a bone to pick with Canto Bight, but y'all, this is pretty much like Canto Bight with like out all the jazz music, like the
or the tuxedos,
but like the look of it and like the feel of it, very regal, very the opera sequences within itself. Such a huge part for dialogue, and like I can't.
My favorite cityscape shot too is that established kind of where they are. That's such a cool.
And then him running up the stairwell is kind of funny. I just don't know why he's running. I thought that was hilarious. Like Anakin's like darting up the stairwell as fast as he can to go talk to Palpatine, but it leads into such an important conversation. And the whole time I'm sitting there watching with Eric, we might have rewound it, like 3 times?
A couple times.
We rewound it a couple times, and we kept thinking, like, if JJ can pull any plot from these prequels and say, like, I want to answer this, it would be this. And it wouldn't be the whole Darth Plagueis. It'd probably be talking about Darth Plagueis or even mentioning Palpatine's former master. It's the cheating death thing, saving himself from death. And Jerry, if you want, jump to the notes, because I have it mentioned briefly right here, but the notes where Palpatine is more towards the bottom, that's where I really kind of, dive into it.
Went crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it might be a good time to bring up our prophecy here.
Yeah, bring it in.
Read in the first one, if Master and Apprentice was just a treasure trove of prophecies and stuff. All the prophecies we talk about, but we've never you get to hear the Chosen One prophecy and all that. But this one almost interests me more than the Chosen One prophecy. We kind of know, Chosen One prophecy is okay. Yeah, someone's going to bring balance to the Force. But here it is: He who learns to conquer death will through his greatest student live again.
Oh, man. That's the Chosen One prophecy.
One more time.
From Master and Apprentice? Is that what it's from?
Yeah, Master and Apprentice. This is just one of the many prophecies in the Jedi texts. Man, I'm getting nerdy just thinking about Jedi texts and all that stuff now.
Getting sweaty.
It's hot in here. I'm getting sweaty. He who learns to conquer death will through his greatest student live again. What other scene does this goes so perfectly with this scene? If you ask me, what else? Who else could that be talking about?
I don't know, because it's so.
How does that hit you guys? How does it hit you?
He threw his read it one more time, just so I can get a better grip on it.
And the prophecy is: He who learns to conquer death will through his greatest student live again.
Literally, it sounds like...
That's a small, juicy nugget.
Well, it sounds like he who learns to conquer death. If Palpatine learns to conquer death, he could literally take his spirit and himself and transport it into the mask. Through Vader will he live again. Like, that's how I hear it. If you're taking it literally...
I got you.
You see what I'm saying?
I was trying to tie that into Snoke somehow, but that would probably make more sense.
As Palpatine being like...
I think it's something to do with Anakin. I don't know if it's quite the Vader helmet, but it could be, because that's the first thing whenever they said, whenever we were at Celebration and Palpatine's laugh was in that trailer. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing I thought was... show me again, grandfather, the power of the darkness.
And he's talking to Palpatine the whole time.
Yeah. But what a better way to make Kylo Ren even be redeemed, I think. You know, like, if you're going to redeem a character, you kind of make him be like, actually, it was me manipulating you the whole time. You're just like every other Skywalker. You're kind of naive. And you
would that make Kylo his greatest student, though? What do you think about that?
Damn.
If manipulation from afar, almost puppet master. I don't know. Palpatine's the puppet and all puppet masters. So
yeah,
he's the evil Jim Henson of the.
Yeah, no, I think this is something that's definitely going to be addressed and definitely going to be answered, and I think there might even be a callback to this scene. Like, oh man, you don't want to get married to these ideas, but
you don't. I
would just love for Kylo to have a Force vision where he sees this scene.
Yeah.
Or sees something with Anakin. I really do hope, because Kylo is probably the most interesting character in the whole sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Being the grandson of Anakin Skywalker.
It's so much, and like, especially for this, we get this whole entire story, and it just makes Anakin's character. It's what kind of sways Anakin to do what he does throughout the rest of the saga.
Yeah.
And like for Palpatine to be so convincing and to say the things he said would just be so. It would make so much sense if it's brought back up. And I mentioned in the notes later, there is no other scene in Star Wars that opens up something and just leaves it completely open, walks away from it. This scene does. Star Wars is pretty... We're going to answer some questions. We might leave very small things up and that don't matter. Like the Luke's lightsaber thing where it fell. That doesn't matter, let's be honest. That's dumb. Like, if you put a lot of your time and effort into thinking about how it got to Maz, that's silly. But if you think about things like this that are huge stories, and like the fact that George threw this in there, I don't know if he had any intent to come back to it. It's just, it's like a parable. It's like you're supposed to get something from it, but it must answer something later. There's got to be more reason to this. And if JD's going to pull and answer questions, you got to answer questions about how Palpatine survived, number one, but maybe how Anakin was formed. I don't know. This scene answers it pretty much to me, visually.
Well, you know, and as much as we want to say, like, not everyone's reading the extra canon material, but I think they've been priming us, at least those of us who are uber nerds, you know, who get into that kind of stuff. They are priming us for resurrection or something, or like some sort of like cheating of death.
Well,
you look, they've been building this whole thing about how Anakin still, even after all of this, was obsessed with cheating death and finding a way to bring Padmé back. The entire reason he built his castle, again, this is in the extra canon stuff, it's just funny to me, like, now that we've got this Palpatine piece of the puzzle kind of coming back in the last chapter, right after Revenge of the Sith, the majority of what Anakin spends his time doing, Vader, trying to cheat death. He wants to figure this out, and why wouldn't Palpatine hold that over his head? He's like, together we can work. And later on, he talks about, you know, if we work together, I know we can discover the secret. I think he either had the secret, then he was just, I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm just going to hold it over you, because that's his control.
Yeah.
Or he didn't. He figured it out later and still didn't tell him. Anyway.
Well,
I'm done.
No. I want to talk about what is mentioned in this Plagueis scene, but I noticed a very visual thing, and I don't know if it's because like what happens in your life kind of reflects through storytelling, and this is very weird. It's very off the wall. I want to hear what you think of it, and I wrote it in my notes. Eric's going to think it's a very strange thing, but this past week I've been teaching my students about sexual reproduction, and from a genetic level.
Fun.
Listen, yeah, it's been awful. No, 7th grade, it's actually been bad. I taught them mitosis, meiosis.
I think I know where you're going with this,
too. There is the opera scene. It's a Mon Calamari opera scene, and it looks like sperm flying into an egg.
Diving into legs.
I mean,
diving into eggs.
I don't know if...
Almost said legs.
Whoa.
Good night, everybody.
No, I'm going to leave that. No.
That is how it works.
But visually, I don't know if that was what George was trying to interpret with or bring up.
That's really interesting, honestly.
Like the sperm and egg idea.
That is a very interesting...
If he's going to create life with the manipulation of midichlorians, or if Plagueis is...
Scott, you've noticed something in every one of these movies so far that I've never thought of.
It's such a weird visual, because why else would it be a Mon Cala literally like jumping from spot to spot?
What if it was a Gungan tadpole?
Whoa, man! We'll call back to the Bombad
call back to the Bombad.
I mean, it's just an interesting visual, whatever you want to call it. Just like talking about life and the fact that he's talking about cheating death. And
life and death, man.
I think you need to read these two quotes because I think these are the ones that
which one
truly get Anakin to turn.
Okay, so I want to go through it. Before they even talk about Plagueis, they talk about how the Jedi Council wants control of the Republic. Search your feelings, you know, don't you? And he kind of sits there, and they're kind of right. He is right. Like, at one point, he's like, we got to overthrow the Senate. We got to take control of... We got to overthrow Palpatine. We got to take control of the Senate. Like, he is kind of predicting the future with that statement. And Palpatine, to Anakin, he paints, the Jedi as the enemy. He's like, you kind of, he brings in like the fact that the Jedi are like they're using you, and I don't know, I like that. And one thing I did mention, and before I even say it, let's go into the Plagueis thing. So the Plagueis thing's brought up. I don't want to read the whole story of it, but the story of Plagueis is that he found a way to cheat death. He can manipulate the midichlorians to create life, and he turns to Anakin and he looks at Anakin and says it, and maybe it's me looking too far into it, but it's just the turn and like the kind of like it's almost like the story being like, yes, like I made you, or something. You were made of the Force.
You know what's funny is I never put two and two together whenever I watched this. Like me, a big Star Wars fan forever and stuff, and later on down the road, a few years after I watched this movie, people were like, oh, did Palpatine create... I started hearing that. But the first viewing of Revenge of the Sith with my wife, that line gets delivered. She turns to me and goes, oh, that's where Anakin came from, huh?
Oh.
How did you pick that?
I mean...
I married up, let's just say.
There you go.
Well, I mean, Allison brings up a good point too, because for any other viewer, if you know storytelling, and if you know how, things are subtly mentioned in storytelling, that's a huge cue to manipulate and create. Like if you could see me and Eric, life. Like it's like very like I'm giving it away. Like
it's very good. Yeah. It's very good. I can see it, guys. It's perfect.
but like he goes into the fact that Palp says he when he could save others from death, he could not save himself, and it shows maybe that his powers blinded him. His ability to use the Force blinded him from.
He really doesn't even try to like hide his evil voice in this. Like he can't even hold it in any longer. Got comments about that whenever we finally get to the fight in his office, but like he's like, he couldn't save it, not even himself. It's like, dude, I can tell you're talking about you killed him. You killed him, right? Was any of us in there? Yeah. Why are you saying it like you killed him?
Well, one thing he does say is, all who gain power is afraid to lose it, and good is only a point of view. That's a pretty powerful line, and the fact that it's mentioned. And the cool thing is, I think the overall interesting thing is he uses a Sith legend to kind of turn or build intrigue in Anakin. Right. And Anakin doesn't question it. At no point, maybe Anakin's like, oh, he's just a kind of a cool, eclectic storyteller, but damn it, if he's not doing this so perfect to pull him over is awesome. And I guess I don't want to jump ahead. This is mentioned later, but Palpatine, when of course the reveal happens much later, he says to Anakin, if one is to understand the great mystery, one must study all of its aspects, not just the dogmatic narrow view of the Jedi, which is pretty much what Luke brings up in TLJ, and the Jedi's hubris, they failed, you know? They didn't look at the Force from the perspective in which you should have looked at the Force, but I guess just to close out that little section of conversation, do you think Palpatine made him, Eric?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I'm hoping that JJ finally, like, just answers it. Just like,
if you're gonna tie up any loose story, there's no other scene in Star Wars that's like,
because they keep referring to this as the end of the Skywalker saga, and we need to have some sort of payoff that goes all the way back, 50 plus years.
And he says we're gonna tie up a lot of the stories, a lot of the loose ends.
Yeah,
there's no loose ends in Star Wars except this.
Well, what if the whole, Star Destroyers coming out of the ice is just some kind of big gender reveal by Palpatine, saying, like, it's a boy.
It was a boy.
It was a boy.
Dude,
yeah.
Let me tell you something. If Anakin shows up in this movie, you guys have seen Scott's emotional reactions to trailers. I'm kind of a low-key guy, honestly, but if Anakin pops up in this movie, I'm going to scream.
We got the tickets together.
If you're going to be in the same theater, Scotty, you have to get.
I honestly, what I might do, which is very illegal, I'm just going to say it. I think I might record the whole thing on my phone, just the audio, just have an audio recording, just to have a reaction video, just like But like, no, seriously,
I've still got to warn my neighbor who's going with me that I'm going to cry in this movie.
This movie is going to break me. This movie's going to break me. But anyway, no. So you think you 100%?
Yeah, I'm on the view of I think so.
What about you, Gerry?
I lean towards it for sure. I don't know if I'm quite firmly in there, but I'm. You know how I am.
Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to be.
Cheered him way over.
Well, you don't want to be let down, and I respect that completely because I've got a lot of eggs in this basket. I 1,000% think it's going to be revealed.
I almost think I think it's pretty much confirmed in this scene.
Yeah,
but just very subtly. But yeah, we could get JJ could have him 100%. Like, I mean, talking down to Kylo, just like telling him like, I basically created all you suckers.
That would be amazing. It would just turn his character. You would then understand.
It would be an epic, like,
just to sum up the whole story.
Like, just really trying to put him down. Like, I own you.
Yeah, you're the reason I'm here.
Make whatever victory is going to happen much sweeter.
Yes, it's just, I don't know. If anyone's going to kill Palpatine, might as well be one more Skywalker. And if it's the son of Han Solo and Princess Leia, it would just be. But yeah, I guess
Holy crap,
my answer.
We should move on to the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I know. We've spent like 30 minutes talking about this one scene. Let me go back up to
I think that's okay. I think there's like pivotal moments of this movie you have to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that happens that like
aren't important, and a lot of things that are huge.
Well, yeah, I think there's things that you guys can talk about in the future. Like, there's like the whole Obi-Wan's plot with like Grievous.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what that serves is like the Order 66.
Yes, it does.
And ending the Clone Wars. Which the point of y'all talking about these movies is like looking towards the future of what's going to happen in Rise of Skywalker. Which I don't know if Order 66 has anything to do with the end of this trilogy, unless if this new Sith kind of trooper thing is like a reintroduction to the clones.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's got a lot of ships.
I mean, like an unbelievable amount.
It's a lot of,
and assuming a lot of pilots.
Yeah.
And it's like, where do you get all those people?
My gosh.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
I am so unbelievably excited for them.
I can't believe it. The fact that we're getting a TV show, and by the time of this recording, it'll be the day The Mandalorian drops. Right. It's just like we're living in an amazing
happy
time.
Mandalorian Day,
everyone
everybody.
Listening, happy Mandalorian. You've made it to the 2-hour mark. No spoilers. But I guess let me get into this next part, because this is the last part we see Obi-Wan and Anakin talking, and it's very. Anakin apologizes to Obi-Wan for his reaction, and like it's humbling. It's kind of interesting to see Anakin be this way, and the last conversation they have, and Eric pointed it out, Anakin is in the dark and Obi-Wan's in the light. you know, and the clones are also in the dark. I noticed that in the same visual. The clones, there's like 2 or 3 clones talking in like an area. They're in the dark too. It's just I don't know. I think it's
they knew what they're doing. The cinematography in these movies is always
it's so on point.
So beautiful.
And Obi-Wan is so kind to Anakin. So kind, like, you know, you're like my brother, you know, and I'm very proud of you. It's like, damn, it's like it's this dad relationship that Anakin has always longed for, and he kind of finally has it at this moment.
Is this the conversation where Obi-Wan's telling them, like, you're a far greater Jedi than I'll ever be? Or
yeah, it's like the last conversation they have as friends. Really,
it's awful.
I mean, if you think about it, it's a very bittersweet scene.
It is, and
from there on out, it only goes down.
Well, then he has the next nightmare, and Obi-Wan was at the birth of their baby, and it makes Anakin. This is a weird subplot that's not really ever mentioned, but it's kind of there. But Anakin's kind of convinced that Padmé might be cheating on him with Obi-Wan. I don't know. That's a weird undertone that like is brought up subtly because he's on the ship later, and Obi-Wan went and checked on her once during it. It's weird. I don't know. That's an odd subplot, but it's definitely discussed.
It definitely made Anakin put down his Game Boy Advance. And stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I called it.
That's exactly
it looks like a Game Boy Advance. It does, or like the Nintendo.
Looks like the Switch.
It looks like a Switch.
Switch. It does look like a Switch. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's got like a lot of buttons. Yeah. It's Game Boy-esque for sure. I always think that. Every time he's like, I just can't play my games anymore. If Pokemon.
We wrote a really cool quote here when they're having the conversation in the apartment where he's saying, I'm not the Jedi I should be. I want more and I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I found a way to save you from my nightmares.
Ooh.
Which is Anakin kind of opening up a little bit without, spilling the tea too much.
Yeah.
But, and then while Obi-Wan, I think this is like what we should say. When Obi-Wan's like on Utapau doing like his thing, this is when Anakin finds out the truth about Palpatine.
Yeah.
So two really important.
It was like right after he destroys Grievous.
Yeah.
Right?
And the Grievous thing, and I want to mention that briefly. I love Order 66. Mm-hmm. I think it might have been, if I could say the most genius thing George did with the prequels, because everyone's like, well, why are there no Jedi? Why don't anyone know anything about Jedi later in, A New Hope? It's the fact that, like, this writing of the clones having an inhibitor chip, I think I might have jumped the gun a little bit, because we have to talk about Palpatine and Mace and all that.
This is one of those weird story things. This is kind of happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Like the second that Anakin helps kill Mace or throws him out of a window.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should say kill. But
I agree with that, actually. We have a good friend of the pod, Bill. He's on your side right now if he's listening.
I don't know if I believe that. I just think like you could get away with it if you wanted to.
Definitely.
And I don't know, it's happening at the same time. So Palpatine reveals the truth to Anakin. Anakin ignites his lightsaber,
which is amazing. It points at him.
And, are you going to kill me?
Uh-huh.
And does he say, like, I would most certainly like to or something?
He's very polite when he says it. Like, I'd very much like to.
I would very much like to. But that's when the line's brought up. If one must understand the great mystery, one must study all its aspects, not just the dogmatic view of the Jedi. Maybe that's something that Rey might have to go through. Because we see that there's a dark Rey. I don't know if it's a vision. I don't know if it's some sort of battle she's going to have, but maybe that kind of comes into play later. And, he says a wise leader must embrace a more broader view. And it's just...
Here's a Jedi Master question for you, Jerry. There should be a section of y'all's podcast.
Right. The Jedi Master questions.
Is this the moment where Palpatine reveals he knows Anakin is married? Or is there some sort of canon that says that, like, Anakin tells Palpatine that he's...
There's not. This is where he reveals it. Because that's what makes Anakin ignite his saber. If you'll remember, he's
he
like,
goes, what?
Yeah. Achieve a power greater than any Jedi and save your wife from certain death.
Oh.
And like, he's like, you shouldn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't think he told. I don't think he did, like, him and Palps were close, and I close in quotations because it was one-sided. I don't think he ever told him that. I think Palps knew, of course, because he knows everything, and then that's when he's like, okay, you're the Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Like, supposed to know about that. Yeah, because he doesn't ignite. Then he says, what did you say?
Yeah.
Is what he says, and then another little bit of
That's some great
dialogue.
acting there, too, if I'm going to be honest. If I were to break the story.
So this is when I was 10 years old in the theater, and I was like, stab him, like, do it.
Yeah.
Like, just do it.
Just kill him.
You would have been forgiven, bud. Like, no, I mean, like, so this is really important because, like, while this is going on, Obi-Wan's out there basically ending the Clone Wars.
Yeah, he killed Grievous, and I one thing I will say, because it has to be mentioned, a lot of people are like, I don't understand The Last Jedi. It's so, it does so many crazy things that would normally not be done in Star Wars. Luke, Force Ghost, all that stuff. Dude, we literally just watched in Revenge of the Sith someone with 4 arms fight someone using one lightsaber. That's insane. Like, just like in terms of like silliness and like campiness, I loved it as a kid, and seeing it now as an adult, you are kind of like, that's kind of crazy. You're like, that's like a lot, but it's still amazing. And you see it, of course.
Yeah,
in
it's just a
Clone
cool
Wars.
visual, which is that's totally Star Wars.
That's George. Upping the ante.
Part of Star Wars' appeal is that they do stuff because it looks cool.
Yes.
That's the only reason. It's like, why do they do it like that? Because plot, and it looks cool.
Well, my dad, I'll never forget my dad actually freaking out as a kid. My dad was like, that is so awesome. That is amazing. And, and the blades cutting up. But I guess the whole Utapau scene really kind of shows, Obi-Wan more as a warrior, which I think needs to be seen, because each, I think Attack of the Clones has that scene pretty well.
You fought in the Clone War?
Yeah, like it gives more weight to that dialogue.
Obi-Wan has almost taken the mantle of the most Jedi to ever Jedi.
Yeah, went from Qui-Gon to...
The most Jedi to ever Jedi from Qui-Gon.
Yeah. Thanks, Pete.
He's the most Jedi of them all, for sure, at this time.
But I love that he kills Grievous with a gun, and then he's like so uncivilized and just like throws it.
Such a great callback.
It's funny. It's a callback, and people might not realize it. And Eric and I talked about it.
Or a foreshadowing if you're watching it.
But it's a more civilized time, and he uses a gun to destroy this dude's chest plate and blow a hole through his eye. It's just so awesome. And Grievous' death's pretty awesome too. It's just like an explosion, fire launches out of it. It's pretty metal. It's very 80s George Lucas.
Very metal.
Also,
if only they had pulled out the guitar for this solo.
Yeah. Like an Attack of the Clones.
Also, just like a timing thing, which is always like an interesting thing in Star Wars. Like Cody gives Obi-Wan his lightsaber back like moments before Order 66 is called and executed.
Crazy.
So
let's jump to the mace. That whole part. I love that part. Let me see.
Yeah. So the Anakin goes back to the Jedi
Council. I guess he goes back to the temple. He tells Mace pretty quickly.
Tells Mace, and he kind of just like he's just kind of calm about it. He's like, I think Palpatine is the Sith Lord we've been looking for.
And he's like, oh wait, let's see if I have it on here.
A Sith Lord?
Yeah, that's it. I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi.
You can see him holding back, wanting to say MF for sure.
This is Mace's biggest failure right here, because I think if he would have allowed Anakin to go with him, I think they would have gotten the job done, and B, he wouldn't have,
Well, even Mace acknowledges specifically, he's like, well, that means the Jedi are going to need to take over the Senate. If Palpatine doesn't give away his powers, we're going to have to go take it over. And it does actually make Palpatine's statement true. It's like, the Jedi are going to take over the Senate, which would be the case if Palpatine didn't die. And would that be a good thing? Would that be a bad thing? I think ultimately it would be a good thing, but it's, you bring up a really good point with that, Eric. Like, it's, if Anakin would have gone, I think Anakin would have been like, no, let's all get at him. Me, Kit Fisto, and Mace, and it's funny. I think a lot of people's gripe with that scene too is the fact that those other Jedi Masters die, but it says in the recanonized version of the book or something that he was moving faster than they could see, if I'm not mistaken, or was it the original book that came out?
I honestly don't remember.
But they mentioned it somewhere.
It's something they were not ready for what he was able to do, for sure.
Well, here's
I mean, he jumps and immediately stabs the first guy, which is
Eric.
Here's what's funny about we watched it on digital.
Yeah,
and I guess it was the 2011 version. And this was the first time I had watched this version because I don't own any of the first 6 Star Wars on Blu-ray.
He owns all the DVDs.
I have all the DVDs with the very similar covers. I guess it was like
2005.
I guess it was like when they like marketed them right after Revenge came out. And so I was like, is this scene a little faster? Like Palpatine like killing them? I almost felt like he was moving faster than what I remember.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's George going, I have to like explain
how he did it so much quicker.
How he's destroying these masters.
Yeah.
And then another interesting little tidbit here is when Anakin's in he's in the council room.
I think it's when Anakin first walks. Well, no,
he's waiting around.
Yeah, yes,
he's in the council room, and Padmé's in her apartment, and they're like, on the completely different sides of Coruscant from each other, and they're staring at each other, staring out of the window. There's like this little added, Palpatine line says, "You do know, don't you, if the Jedi destroy me, any chance of saving her would be lost."
I don't think he says that to her. It says it to him, right?
The version I have, there is no way that's in the original theatrical version.
It's not. That's George, though, sprinkling them seeds.
And I was thinking, we're watching, I was like, is this something that like Palpatine even said in the movie, or is this like a re-recorded line?
It's a re-recorded line.
So that's interesting to hear that this is kind of, and it's not I wouldn't even say it's a retcon of the scene, because even in the original trilogy, you get characters being able to talk to each other through the Force.
Yeah.
And maybe this is George's Force Skyping.
Yeah.
With only the microphone on.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but, just like little interesting bits like that. I wonder if George was like, oh, I need to put this in here so people understand why he like goes and like does this. But like, either way, the scene's still like one of the most like beautiful scenes I think of all the prequels. There's them two looking out of the windows, and that like super eerie kind of like I'm not so great with the musical terminology, but like the notes that the opera singer is singing.
Dissonant.
Mm-hmm. It's like crazy.
Well, one thing I want to bring up, and it can totally be discussed later too, the use of sunset is unbelievably good in this movie in particular, because it's like a setting of fate. Like every time a sunset is used, it is a way to determine the fate of the character. And like the sunset is used for this scene in particular when they're looking out, and it's just that sad music, and that's when he gets in the ship and he decides to go. And I think the biggest turn of events in all of Star Wars is this scene. If this scene would not have happened, none of this would have came into fruition in regards to everything that comes after this. And it's very ancient storytelling, I feel. Like the way they shoot it, the fact that Mace and Palp are, two opposite sides, completely opposite sides of the Jedi Council, and then the absolute Sith, the absolute Sith. Completely different views. And Anakin has been torn between these two characters for this whole movie. He wants to be a master like Mace, but he also wants to save his wife, which he can only do through Palpatine. Mm-hmm. It's like you can see it. Eric blew my mind with this, and I think he might blow yours too, Gerry. But I guess say what you noticed, because I never noticed this.
Which part?
Let me see. This is amazing.
Oh yes. So when Palpatine is using his Force lightning on Mace, you get a shot that's super, super similar to Return of the Jedi, when Vader's looking back and forth at Palpatine using the lightning on Luke. But this time, Palpatine is on the lower. He doesn't have the high ground.
Yeah.
And he's on the bottom of the screen. Mm-hmm. And so, but you get Anakin looking back and forth, and this is where he decides, I'm going to save Palpatine.
Yeah.
So this is a really cool moment, because in Return of the Jedi, he's kind of like, I'm not falling for this again. Yeah,
that's one thing I love. I had thought about it too after. He does this look back and forth, and it's not the same angle. It's not the same exact shot, which I like. Yeah. It's from a different angle. It's from a lower angle. He looks down, he looks back and forth. He's like, I have to make a decision. And the decision Return of the Jedi is obvious. Why would I will let my son die, and he changes his fate ultimately. He goes from, allowing the Jedi to be ended to then allowing the Jedi to live when he saves Luke and he throws Palpatine off the ledge. Or so we think.
Yeah.
And then he's dead.
Well, here's an interesting thing I just thought of. Like, Mace was not a family figure to Anakin.
At all.
And that's Anakin's, like... Anakin chose the person who was most like his family at this point, which was Palpatine.
Oh. Damn, that's good.
And at this point in Return of the Jedi, especially with new canon, Vader hates Palpatine.
Yes.
And he's just there because I think he still
wants to save
He's
Padmé.
still holding on to that promise of being able to save Padmé. And so there, he does save a little bit of Padmé within Luke. He saves like a product of him and his wife's relationship.
Damn, that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I mean, but like I said, that's
a nice pull.
This is a family story.
It is.
And so, Anakin, all he ever had was Shmi and kind of Watto. Like,
exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? So, like, he does have a lot of attachment, but that's because this is one of those themes of like a boy needing a father figure, or I guess in this case, just like family in general. But like for the most part, it's men figures and then his wife. Mm-hmm. So, that, and this is why I was saying, like, I think the prequels tell like a beautiful story.
It does.
And I just think like anyone who's a critic of the movies, like, you could say like there's some things that are outdated. There's some like wonky acting. There's some maybe awkward bits.
You could say that about the original trilogy too.
Oh my goodness. People like overlook the original trilogy on like cornballiness and stuff because of like its importance to like starting this whole thing.
Yeah.
But the story is so good.
Oh, I mean, especially this movie.
Yeah.
Especially this movie. And like one thing I want to kind of bring up, and I don't mean to derail what you said,
no,
but
fine.
like Palpatine this whole time kind of fakes being weak, and I think it's awesome. It shows that he's very manipulative. He fakes it, I can't any longer. And then, I'm weak. I'm weak. It's so funny. And then
my 2-year-old does better at, like trying to hide it. She's like, oh no, please,
the second Anakin cuts off Mace's hand, he's just like power, like screaming.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like
read what you wrote, Gerry, about Palp saying after.
It's just so funny. Like we've got like Palpatine through the entire trilogy. It's like Palpatine has been like holding in a fart in an elevator the whole time. Like he's like, oh, I just want to let it out, but I can't let it out right now because there's a couple of grandmas in here with me, and I don't want to like make them. After he gets done electrocuting Mace and all that's done, he goes, ah.
Yeah, he does do that after.
It's like he let out. I wrote down he says like he just let an evil fart. It's almost he's kind of like, all right, I can be myself. Yeah. Also, it's really funny to me. It's just kind of it's an awesome acting choice and also just one of those quirky, awesome things that I love about it.
But the thing is, it's kind of interesting because after this, like, the voice is so demonic, and then Anakin's I think it's actually probably the saddest line, and like it actually kind of makes me like get chills talking about it, and like I get a little emotional. He goes, "What have I done? Like, what have I done? Like, he's so self-realizing, Anakin. Like, I really just sealed my fate. Like, I literally signed a deal with the devil just now. Like, he realizes that, which is huge. It's crazy. And one thing I didn't bring up, I should have brought this up. It's kind of like the opposite of Luke whenever he takes Mace's hands, right? He in regards to like he cuts off Mace's hands, he's taking the hands of another Jedi to protect evil, whereas Luke takes the hand of Vader, in his anger, and like Luke takes the hand of Vader in his anger, which is very weird and exposing of his character, because Luke realizes, oh crap, I just did something really wrong after I did that, I should stop. Whereas, we know that Vader didn't stop, or Palpatine helped, seal the deal. And he rises up and he says, you are fulfilling your destiny, Anakin. And I wrote on the notes, Palpatine is kind of like a serpent. He's kind of like, in biblical terms, he is like a serpent. You know, he is the temptation. You know, he is going to bring the temptation.
He is Satan in this world.
Yes, he is.
Sure, he's like that Satan figure of, this is the guy who's the puppet master pulling the strings. He is the master of evil.
Yep, and you bring up a good point, Jerry, because the idea of Satan is not just evil for his intentions; it's evil for evil's sake. He is going to be evil for evil. He really he wants to benefit himself.
Anything he can do for himself.
Yes, it's all selfish, and he's the ultimate personification of the Sith, and you can tell. Like you said, Anakin's obsessed with death and bringing back Padme. He is not evil for being evil. He's not evil for evil's sake or being selfish. He's evil because he wants to bring back someone he loves. It's a very opposite of Palpatine. But we get the line that Jerry likes so much. To cheat death is a power only one has achieved. But if we work together... That's that voice is terrifying. We may succeed. And Eric pointed out another beautiful lighting cue.
Yeah, Anakin, at this point, he is there is a shadow on his face, but it's still only half shadowed, which is interesting because, and he doesn't have Sith eyes because he's not fully embracing hate. He didn't make the decision he made it out of hate. He made it out of fear, which is, part of the cycle. But just like an interesting bit, like there's still good in him.
Yeah.
So, which is a theme throughout these movies.
Well, of course, we get the Order 66 thing happen, and like I said earlier, I think it's one of the best storytelling George ever threw in. And Jerry made up a really good point in the notes. Jerry, if you don't mind reading that.
Yes, the Clone Wars made Order 66 even more tragic because it's like they went through and they were like, we're going to take this Jedi and this Jedi. I know Dave Filoni's like a big Plo Koon guy, but they took all those Jedi and gave them at least a little 4-episode arc.
Yeah. Definitely, each one of them.
Jedi who dies there, you're like, wait, no, not Ki-Adi-Mundi, not Aayla Secura, especially Aayla Secura because she wasn't even in the last 2 movies.
Exactly. Well, another thing that can be brought up, it's like the inclusion of the inhibitor chip. Because if you're watching this movie as a standalone movie, they're literally like, oh, here's your lightsaber, and he goes up on the little dragon thing called, Jerry? You know the name of it.
The Boga the Varactor. Yeah, Varactor. He has it's a species and it has a name.
Well, Boga and Obi-Wan are going up that cliff, and he's like, "We'll be done, my lord. Fire!" Fire at him, and it's like, as a viewer, you're like,
really adds a lot to it.
Did the clones know the whole time? But the inhibitor ship, when he says Order 66, boom.
They really tried to answer that in like the EU too. Like they were like, I don't know. It was like some clones were. I don't know. It was the inhibitor chip is way better than anything that I've ever read. About nothing.
Well, to kind of speed this up a little bit, Jerry brings up some good points. There's a lot of nostalgia buttons. Like the Tantive V4, the Rise of Skywalker. It's going to be in the Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. We see it. The Corellian ship. We're definitely going to see it. But Yoda is cool because Yoda is so connected to the Force, just like Obi-Wan was in A New Hope, and he feels that change happening, and he has that, he knows that conflict is happening, and do what must be done, Lord Vader. Don't hesitate, show no mercy, and after that we get to the huge part with him going to the Jedi Temple, and that's a brutal scene. That is almost a hard scene to watch.
Well, I think the one thing that surprised me is that we didn't get that was the one thing I felt. You're talking about getting a Vader scene. Yeah. We were going to see him actually doing more in that scene.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful the way he did it. It's at least I'm glad that it is the way that it is.
Me too.
Watching the Master Skywalker, what are we going to do part, I teared up in that one because. And I never really have before. I think part of it is, and I'm not gonna try to be that guy that's like,
no,
when you have kids,
you've got a good point though.
But there's something too where you think about your kid. You know what I mean? Like anytime there's a child in danger and anything. So like we couldn't watch the movie It whenever it came out.
Yeah,
me and my wife, because kids are in peril and all that stuff, and it's just watching that and seeing the tears in Anakin's eyes too, and just all you see is him ignite his saber.
The kid's step back is
Then it cuts to Padmé.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His carrying his children.
Yeah. God, that's a good point,
just
man.
Think about what would you do for your own family, for your own children, for you. This is what Anakin is doing. It's not.
Well,
yeah.
You bring up a good point. I mean, imagine if you were a small child like that, and you were like, "Oh my God, there's people attacking this place I live. I need to go hide somewhere. I'm going to go hide up here. No one's going to find me up here."
Yeah.
And if someone does, it's going to be someone good. The guy that walks in,
and it was here comes the hero.
Yeah, the
Anakin
guy that everyone knows,
Anakin's favorite.
And then he's got the hood on. Master Skywalker, what are we going to do? And then, it's brutal, man. It's got to make my heart hurt. That's a hard scene to watch if you really break it down, because you bring up a good point, Gerry. The fact that Padmé's sitting there watching it too, and she's worried.
I just actually realized that it cuts immediately from that, like after the saber ignites, to C-3PO coming to.
Yeah, Padmé.
Is that when C-3PO's like, I feel so helpless?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just feel so...
I think so, yeah.
This is something I noticed during the youngling scene. To give it some preface, like when I was watching the sequel trilogy for the first time, like in theaters, when they were igniting the lightsabers, I was like, wow, they've like stepped up the game on like the lightsaber effects, like when it turns on and stuff. It's just like, with technology and like sound effects and stuff. It's just like deeper. Right. But watching this movie, and maybe it was the fact that I was watching the 2011 version, maybe it's the fact it's been a minute, maybe it was Scott's system. I don't know. When he turns on his lightsaber right there, it was like loud and deep.
It's a deep it's a deep thrum. It's always been that deep thrum.
Wow.
Always, because I think it's just really emphasizing that. The dark intentions, probably. I mean, it's not. They're honestly probably like Ben Burt was like, "Oh, this will sound cool if I do."
Yeah.
But no, it cuts the innocence. It cuts the. What's going to happen, and it's awful, and it cuts away, and like
it's a very dark sound for that saber.
Well, right, and I think that's what you need because it's still blue.
Yeah. And for someone else to like acknowledge that, and like even a common viewer would be like, oh man, that's bad. That's evil. Like he's killing kids.
And this was the first rated PG-13 Star Wars movie.
It's just like the implication of that like shows his turn, and he's actually not really turned all the way yet. I don't know how he goes back to talking to Padmé after this. It kind of blows my mind. Like he's gonna he leaves the temple. I don't know if I could live with myself.
He barely has any conversation with her after this.
That's true.
He basically goes and is like, "Hey, I'm going to Mustafar to
wait for me.
Wait for me. Yep.
Okay, bye. Yeah, I'll be back. Everything will be okay." He's like really trying to like, but she's I don't know. Padmé's too smart. You can't hide anything.
Well,
come on.
One thing I want to bring up, and I don't know, not to say we'll get an answer for this, but like R2 and 3PO are talking. Whenever Padmé and Anakin, and like you got to think like, what the hell could they be talking? Like you think, I bet because even 3PO's like, he's right there, don't say anything or something like that. Like, doesn't he say?
Well, no, he says like he's like, it can't be as bad as all that. I'm sure he's just under a lot of stress or something like that.
R2's like,
basically R2's like, something's wrong.
Yeah,
something is wrong, and it is not. It's not good. And 3PO is of course. Clueless as always.
And I mean, what a better
until Rise of Skywalker. He'll show us exactly what the odds are.
Upon our viewing, I had never noticed how many pivotal scenes 3PO and R2 in after this sequence. We'll get into that later, but they're in a ton of scenes after this, and people don't realize that together.
They're the ones telling this story. To me, they are the ones telling this.
Well, it's them together. It's not just them apart. It is them chilling the whole time. I like seeing the visual of Obi-Wan on the Tantive ship. When of course Anakin rides the Mustafar. I like that this castle's going to be there later, and it's just a symbol of hate and hell. It's awesome. One thing I want to bring into, because it kind of plays into the Satan part of this, Palps' red outfit at the Senate chamber is amazing. Probably one of my favorite costumes from the prequels. It's so red. It's blood.
Nice pop of color for Papa Palps.
It is. It's a very bright color, and the speech he delivers is just freaking awesome.
It's like the last time he wears color, really, until after the fight Yoda, and then he's like, "Nah, I'm all black robe from here on out. Screw you guys." Actually, in new canon, after that speech, he kind of like then doctored holograms and did all that, like had doubles stuff that would go in there to make it look like old good old Palpatine, you know, back in the. I'm just nice, kindly Senator Palpatine. I'm not a horrible toad monster.
Well, I love Padmé's realization. You know, that's such a classic prequel line. Now, this is how Liberty dies with thunder's applause. And then the next thing, you know, you go back and Obi-Wan goes and talks to Padmé about everything, and it kind of actually reveals the whole plot of the prequels. Like, it kind of, you know, that's the conversation. That is the conversation that happens. It's like, wait, so, you know, what is the exact word? He's like, and Anakin's the father? No, what is the line? You
Anakin, he just goes, Anakin's the father, isn't he? Then he just goes, I'm so sorry.
And walks off. Yeah.
Damn.
Like a boss, man. Well, Dad gum, Obi-Wan.
We failed to mention that Obi-Wan watches the scene.
No, he watches the hologram.
Yeah.
Security camera.
Hologram
yeah.
of him. But you can put your hand over your mouth. Classic
and
delivery.
then he begs Yoda, he's like, send me to the Emperor, which is interesting because I was like, is there any sort of canon material that like says that like they found out that the Republic is now an empire? Because Obi-Wan refers to him as the Emperor with Yoda when they're watching. And you know,
I don't think there is.
That could just be George going, we all know he's the Emperor, so let's just like go ahead and say it. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Again, that's something we said in the beginning. Who cares? Like it's just something that caught my ear. And this is just a great point where Obi-Wan's like, do not send me to Anakin. He is like my brother. I cannot do it. And Yoda's just like, you're not powerful enough to go fight the Emperor.
God, it's awesome. It's awesome. I don't remember for some reason now. I wrote a quote in there, and when does Anakin say the word "what things"?
This is when she shows up to Mustafar.
Okay, that's Mustafar. Okay, well, let's jump around real quick. Of course, we've got one thing I think is great about the Mustafar sequence is that Eric pointed this out. When Sidious, I guess, chimes in, he goes, I'll send my new apprentice, Lord Vader, to come. To Mustafar.
He goes, he will take care of you.
It's so good.
You can tell he's loving it's so delicious to say that.
I referred it to mafia talk. Like it's such great mafia talk. He will take care of you.
He's like, and it also lends more credence to the Darksiders never lie to anybody.
Yes.
They just
twist the
tell
truth.
you like, what they want you to hear and stuff. So.
Well, we then get
new apprentice Darth Vader.
We get the great scene of course we got okay, so we see now that Anakin on being on Mustafar and being in this whole situation after he kills a separatist, which is a great scene, and I love that they killed Newt Gunray last. We actually talked about that when we watched it. It actually kind of closes out that whole story. It kind of like it's nice.
It's the first time you see Anakin with the Sith eyes.
There we go. And
getting powerful enough in the dark side that
it's huge.
Into it.
And
man.
This is
still have tears as well.
Yeah,
he does.
Yep. And this is the part where he's looking off the balcony before the Naboo ship arrives, and he's crying, looking at the sunset. And we didn't realize it, but the sunset's both light and dark. Remember, there's like a kind of like a dark clouds in front of it, and it's shining through the light. Yeah, it's the call to the light.
These Skywalkers love looking at the sun.
They do, and I think
they do.
I think it's something that's totally
a lot of retina damage in the Skywalker lineage. You know.
Well, one thing I want to bring up, I guess, to kind of talk about the sun, the use of sun, especially in this scene. The sun is setting, and he's looking towards it, and his eyes are fury red, and he's crying, and he's got the hood over his face, and you gotta think, and the next time we see sun, of course, is Luke, and we see it again, TLJ, but in The Force Awakens, the absence of sunlight is pretty much what visually drives Kylo to be fully shadowed by the dark and kill Han. That's the Skywalker and sunlight is very interesting parallels that most people do not bring up. And we of course we know Luke's, but there's way more. It's way deeper than that. And George, perfectly did that.
So when Padmé shows up to Mustafar and she walks up to him and like they embrace at first and she says, Obi-Wan said things about you, or Obi-Wan, you know,
he said things.
Things, and then Anakin goes, "What things?"
What
which
things?
Just made me think of Kylo with "What girl," which is just a cool like little.
There's a lot of lines delivered in this movie that are one worded that are amazing, and it totally reflects Kylo's aggression, you know, and personality.
Yeah, Ben Solo is 100% Anakin Skywalker.
Yes.
Like it's
amazing.
they're so
Well, the scar on the face. I don't know why I didn't bring that up earlier.
Scar on the face, but even just like I mean, those whiny Skywalker men, man.
Yep.
I mean, just gotta.
I'm gonna jump to the Skywalker section. The Sith eyes and crying part before she arrives, and Obi-Wan knows he wants to help you. That's a great line, you know, and.
Yeah.
He says to her, I won't lose you like I lost my mother. And he already kind of has these Sith motives. Like, you know, I want to overthrow, I can overthrow him. You know, you and I can rule the galaxy, which is such an awesome line because it's verbatim what he says to Luke. You know, together, you and I can rule the galaxy. He says it to Luke in Empire Strikes Back. And, of course, I actually love this line.
Yeah.
I don't know you anymore, Anakin. You are breaking my heart. You're going down a path I cannot follow. This is whenever he yells,
liar.
Liar! And it's in the same cadence says, traitor! It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if Adam Driver watched it, but it's so good. And and I love that Eric pointed this out, it blew me away. Guess who's the first person on screen he force chokes?
Padmé.
Freaking Padmé!
Yep.
I didn't know that. I just didn't dawn on me. It's so natural. He just does it. He reaches his hand out and does it, and he chokes her out. And I think that's ultimately what ends up killing her. I think it does something to stop her heart. The babies don't get the right amount of oxygen. I don't know what it is.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's some people who brought up Palpatine being the one who like executes that, which like would be also a nice.
God, it'd be brutal.
It'd be a nice little dirty, bloody bow at the top of the whole package, but. I don't know. That's one of the ones where, like, at this point, my fandom isn't going to shift one way or the other if they answer it or not. It's not as important as, like, Anakin's conception, creation, possibly.
Well, you bring up a good point, too, because everything else after this is Obi-Wan and Anakin. And I'm not going to lie, we stopped taking notes.
Yeah, we broed
out real bad here. Like, really bad. Like, we were both, like, tripping.
I honestly forgot how great this fight is. Not only, like, what's going on, but I went to film school. How well this fight is covered.
Yeah.
And in terms of, like, how intense the fight is.
Yes.
And the camera angles that they use and, like, some of the movement that they use. Like, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are going down that one hallway and they're just, like, going at it. Oh, my gosh. There's so many good moments. And it challenged my love of Duel of the Fates fight, which I love. But you start off with, like, kind of a wide shot of them, like, going at it. And then there's a lot more movement. This one is just, like, super intense.
Yes.
Doesn't let up. The cuts are on point. The action is on point.
Right.
And the story implications are important with this fight, too. It's not just... Some people say that this is like an aimless... or like some of the prequels are like aimless fighting. But like, this is a guy who trained his apprentice for 10 years.
Yep.
And they know how each other go about this kind of situation.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then they have similar moves. Like, they both go for the force push at the same time.
Yep.
And then they both grab each other's hands at the same time when they're standing, like, right behind when the lava, like, comes up. And Scott was saying that, like, it's kind of similar to how Rey and Kylo hold their sabers, except theirs is a little more wider and a little more angled.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan and Anakin are, like, almost equals in terms of, like, fighting.
Yes.
Not intellectually where they are and emotionally where they are. But
I love that there's no dialogue between them. I think it's really nice.
And skill, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. And one thing I want to mention, before they even get to the fight, of course, it's another beautiful part, is the whole dialogue between Obi-Wan and Anakin. They don't have to talk during the battle, which is nice. They talk It's very specific moments before the battle happens, right before the battle ends, and then the battle's over. They talk, but the sun is setting behind Obi-Wan right before they go into the battle, and that whole line that Hayden Christensen delivers, and we realized this when we were watching it. It's so James Earl Jones. Every line at that point, just the way. If you're not going to join me, no. If you're not with me,
then you're my enemy.
Then you're my enemy. And it's so Vader as a character.
Right.
It's amazing.
I would love for them to have before we. I mean, gosh, this is dark. Before we lose James Earl Jones, have him like read all those Hayden Christensen lines from Revenge.
I think there is a video.
Wouldn't that be so sick?
I think there's a video where they do that, and except it's played more comically. I think. Don't quote me on this, but I think there is a video out there where he does read some of them. But yeah, we just started noticing this is like his. He's being molded by hate and lava into Vader, and so his acting choices here, like I said, without a modulator and a super awesome costume, come off a little awkward. Yeah, but that's the point. That's the point.
Yeah,
and honestly, I'm glad you guys have made that point because that's something that I would always like argue too. Like I feel like he's trying to talk like weird, like Vader talks. You know, like. Yeah, 100%. I think you're there.
Yeah. So if you're not with me, you're my enemy. Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Yep.
And that's where we go.
That's where we go. Well, the cool thing is, while this battle is happening, and I don't think it's happened since, and it dawned on me watching it, we have never seen a Jedi lightsaber battle or a two lightsaber battles at once on screen since the same exact time. We got Yoda and Palpatine.
Yeah, this is the most lightsaber duels of any film.
It is. And it's amazing.
Which is probably a huge credit. This is something I said when you earlier.
Yeah.
When I was studying 70s filmmaking. George Lucas specifically said the first 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes of any movie are the most important.
Yeah.
So this is essentially the last 20 minutes.
Yes.
And so I think this is why a lot of people, even people who like kind of poo-poo on the prequels, love or at least appreciate this movie.
Yep.
Because there's so much good fan service at the end of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because wouldn't you want to see the most powerful Jedi at this point fight Palpatine?
The most powerful Jedi? Yeah, like it's...
And there was no reason for us to believe that was going to happen until I started thinking about it. And I was like, well, he did fight Dooku.
Yeah.
In episode 2, Yoda, and I was like, I don't know, like I said, I was 10 when this movie came out. So, Jerry, what were your expectations with Yoda and any sort of
was that
physical
a surprise, honestly, with the Yoda Palpatine fight?
Honestly, nothing but pleasant surprises. I remember in Attack of the Clones, everyone was losing their minds in the best way when, Yoda started fighting Dooku. I have to say, though, for me, the Yoda-Palpatine fight is... I love that probably a little bit more than the whole Obi-Wan versus Anakin duel. That I'm so invested every time it cuts back to them. For one thing, Yoda walks in there like friggin' John McClane, and like that whole throwing the two Force...
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
They just go to get him, and he's just like, no, I'm just going to use one hand and knock you guys out.
Knock him out.
The whole interaction between him and Palps. He's so sarcastic. I love it.
Another huge thing. Oh no, my AirPod noise just went off that it's going out of battery. That's okay. I'm gonna leave that in. So I think Eric mentioned how symbolic that Senate destruction is. That whole thing is symbolic, and it just shows like the Empire is really taking over, and like he even disbands the Empire.
Destruction of the Republic.
Yeah, exactly. He even disbands the Imperial Senate in A New Hope.
This is just totally the visual representation of what Palpatine's been doing this whole time.
Yep,
and now he finally gets to just be like, he let out that and now he's nothing's holding him back.
Yep.
So,
and I think the most beautiful part too is that Yoda loses. I think it's awesome. I think it's necessary. I think we need to see this dude. We need to see why he goes to Dagobah. We need to see why
the greatest teacher failure is.
Exactly. I mean, he's the one that says it. He knows it the most. The whole Jedi Order.
This is him learning that lesson.
God, it's beautiful. And
yeah,
of course, love TLJ. Another TLJ parallel. I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you. Even Obi-Wan failed, and he's learned from it. He learned from it, and he learns maybe just that. I don't know, that the Jedi were probably wrong in what they did. And Gerry, you pointed out something very interesting. There's a lava hill behind Obi-Wan's face, behind Obi-Wan's head, that looks similar.
Well, it's just like when he's talking down to Anakin, when he has the high ground. He's already cut off his limbs and stuff, but like there's like little like streams of lava that almost in the black hillside, it looks like what Kylo's mask is going to look like. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. It's cool that you noticed that. It's an interesting thing that I saw, and I was like, oh, that looks a lot like what they're going to do with his mask in Rise of Skywalker. Yeah.
Well, I think...
I don't like... we put his mask back together with Mustafar lava or anything.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of jump ahead, and of course we get the whole... I have the high ground, don't try it, and he does it. And, like, as a kid, I always wondered, how did Vader end up getting in the suit? Like, that was always something I wondered. Like, what caused it? Mm-hmm. And to finally have that answer as a 9-year-old little boy was probably the most satisfying thing of this movie, and it was beautiful. I don't think...
And horrifying.
I don't think I was young enough to be emotionally moved. As a kid, you're like, wow, that makes sense. And the legs and arm come off, and the only thing left is his metal arm, and I think that's pretty... I think it's somewhat symbolic, but you were the chosen one, bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness. And he physically becomes Vader, catches fire, and I hate you with his red Sith eyes.
That one's always rough.
That is the death of Anakin, rough scene right there.
That is a rough scene to watch now. And you see it. Yeah, that's the death of Anakin. You're right. And physically, he is completely...
He dies on that hill. That's why Obi-Wan says, Vader killed your father.
Yep. So. Damn, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Of course, the funny thing is people forget this. R2 and 3PO, also on Mustafar. Another thing. They were both in the same... He got the ship, and they both went into the Naboo ship. I think the cool thing, the only thing that survived from Vader, from his previous life, from his life of Padmé, was the metal arm. I think it's pretty, And then Luke later cuts it off. I think that's super symbolic. Like he pulls his burnt body back up with that arm that was taken from him, and then it's going to be taken from him again by his son, but for a good reason, through hate and anger too, right. Completely through hate and anger.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's like a little like random tidbit. Like I'm really hoping for Obi-Wan that we get to see Obi-Wan learn that Anakin is still or Vader is still alive, because. By the time we get to New Hope, he knows that who Vader is. He's just hiding it.
Right.
And, just as like a super Obi-Wan enthusiast, I'm just hoping that we get to see Ewan perform some sort of emotional reaction to like hearing that Anakin, because he's not going to look at him as Vader just yet. I don't think. That Anakin is still alive, and I'm hoping that he goes to him.
Yeah.
Because they've already said that it's 8 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So that gives you 10. That gives you 10 years or 11 years, I guess, for when Vader's like, when I last saw you, I was a learner, but now I am the master. Mm-hmm. And I think you can, I don't want to use this word because people don't like this word, but you can retcon the story to where Obi-Wan goes to Vader again and gets away.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely
possible. Well, Return of the Jedi, Vader says Obi-Wan once thought as you did. Shout out to Christian Harloff. He thinks that line points to
the possibility of
Vader being at least the antagonist of the Obi-Wan series.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome. I think it would be so awesome just because of how emotional these scenes are, to where you can have like a story thread where like you can like make like literally a visual chart and be like, and then 8 years later, this happened.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, this is kind of also random. No. I'm wondering if Obi-Wan cuts himself off from the Force like Luke does.
Wouldn't at one point, it perfectly?
At one point. I don't know, because by the time we get...
I would love it if they do that in that series.
Yeah, especially if it's because he learns about Anakin and he says, I cannot be sensed. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And I think the reason he's probably so chill about it at first because he's like, Anakin is dead.
Yep.
No one's gonna come look for me on Tatooine. No one's gonna come look for Luke on Tatooine.
Oh man!
But when he finds out that Vader is, maybe he cuts himself off from the Force until the time is right.
Yeah, and they're on the Death
and
Star
that's maybe literally like he opens it back up while New Hope is going on.
Damn.
I don't know. We'll see. I think that would be so cool.
It would be. It would be beautiful.
That is pretty awesome.
Because like, I really did like the inclusion of cutting yourself off from the Force. I like the fact that that's a power.
Well, like a thing is that people don't acknowledge, and it drives me crazy. It's like what Luke learned simply from his masters. When something goes wrong, his masters, just like in this movie, just disappeared. They literally uprooted. They didn't fight. They did what they could do. They accepted their failure and they disappeared. What did Luke do? The same exact thing in TLJ.
Yeah.
Well, it's a huge parallel.
Self-imposed exile, to essentially go and gain wisdom.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. They're not just trying
reflecting.
They're trying to go reflect and like, okay, what's the next step? Because obviously the way we were going wasn't working.
Exactly.
So.
Now, hold on, I got a question for Jedi Master Jerry. Did you read?
Yes, young
Did
lady.
you read? Because I hadn't. Have you read like this Obi-Wan journal thing where he like saves Luke? Is there a timeline for that?
Oh.
Because if it's pre 8 years, then maybe we have. Because let me take back.
I know Luke is really young in most of it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they chose 8 years because the comics and stuff is prior to this.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
Okay, well, let me take back what I said because I won't.
Some of that might actually happen a little before that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it does because I think Luke is like at the most 4 or 5 years old.
Also, you need to have
the water tax and stuff.
You need to have him at an age where he can forget that Obi-Wan is like a hero.
That's true.
Because he just thinks of him as like this old hermit. So cutting with the Obi-Wan series, I also want to see Liam Neeson. I want to see them talk. So let's say it's 6 episodes.
I have a slight ghost of a chance that he's going to show up in Rise of Skywalker. I don't have my hopes up, but
I just think this is more likely if you had to place odds.
100%,
but
yeah.
Give me 5 episodes of Obi-Wan, like exploring the Force, talking to Qui-Gon, going to Vader, and then the last episode, like the last scene, he cuts himself off.
Yeah.
And then it's like 10 years go by.
Oh, gee. And it kind of transitions perfectly to the next conversation because of Qui-Gon being mentioned.
Right.
Like, it's now been stated that Yoda was, I think in the novelization maybe, that Yoda was in touch with Qui-Gon, talking to Qui-Gon through the Force in that moment when he's on Polos Massa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And everything that happens after this is just tying up loose ends, which George did really well. Anakin's burnt body, and I think Eric wanted to bring it up, but the rain on Coruscant, that's a damn good visual.
Oh, yeah.
It is. It kind of just shows the darkness.
That's very good.
I like the rain on Coruscant.
And then the rain on his burnt body.
It's the double birth, right?
It is.
It's the birth of the twins, the birth of Vader.
Yep. And then thunder in the back, which, thunder and lightning, kind of new Rise of Skywalker stuff. It's cool.
It looks so cool.
The fact that I'm just gonna bring up tidbits now, y'all, just for our listeners. 3PO and R2, yes, they were 1,000% there for the birth of Luke and Leia. This just plays into our idea of them being, our storytellers. I mean, it just makes sense. We got the parallels between Padmé's death and Vader's birth, and like Eric said, that could be Palpatine totally using that life force and taking away Padmé's living force to ultimately feed into Vader's birth and living. And one thing that Eric, our wonderful film student or former film graduate, he pointed out, Anakin having the mask on, put on as the twins are born, gives. Oh wait, no, you put this, didn't you, Jerry, or did I put this? I don't remember who put this in the notes. But
it's too late for me to remember.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, Jerry. We got you up so late.
No, you're good.
Anakin having the mask put on as the twins are born gives more weight to the line in Return of the Jedi when he wants to look at Luke.
Yeah,
that was you. When he wants to look at Luke with his own eyes.
Yeah.
I got there eventually.
It's
let me look on you with my own eyes. It very much like just because you see what Vader sees, and it's not like 4K resolution, nice, beautiful. It's
red.
It's a red. It's like what the Terminator sees.
Yeah,
you know, and it's
that's something.
It's heavy. It's really
that's
heavy.
something I've picked up from like y'all's Phantom Menace show. This is, I think, the second POV shot.
The only other one, to my knowledge. I thought the C-3PO was the only one, but he noticed it.
You get to see what Vader sees, and this is the second time a POV shot is used. So
yeah,
and it's sad and
awful. It's
horrifying,
red,
terrible.
It's well.
You get, I don't know, just the whole thought of having to be in that suit forever.
How claustrophobic.
I mean, he comes out, we find out later, of course, in the extra stuff.
Yes.
You know. But still,
his fate is so sealed, and it's sealed with the sound and everything.
And his first breath, I don't know if you've noticed how powerful his first breath is, and like the smoke like moving from like everything that's going on.
That was such a good detail when like he breathes out, because you never see that in the other any other stuff. So yeah, that was, because it's so deathly quiet. It does a little bit of the Imperial March, then the helmet seals it. There's a moment of silence.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's
well. It's beautiful because then you cut to Padmé laying there, and Obi-Wan. I know there's still good in him, and this is something that Eric had noticed, and I had kind of played onto it as well. Leia says that same exact line in The Force Awakens about Kylo Ren. Luke says that same exact line to Leia in The Last Jedi. And this is dealing with the only two dark side Skywalkers. Same exact line. I know there's still good in him. It's and the way she delivers it is very similar to the way Vader delivers the line, "Tell your sister you were right." Mm-hmm. Tell your sister you were right. It's the same cadence. There's still good in him. It's like, such a great ending, and then we get probably one of the best sequences, probably the best book ending a movie has ever done, with the funeral song that played for Qui-Gon. And Eric didn't notice that until he brought it up, but it happens for when Vader does the whole thing, and where's Padme? Is she all right? It's amazing.
Yeah. It swells whenever the table is lifting up. It goes full choral too. It's like Anyway, there you go. Rendition.
Well, okay, so when after all this happens and you see the I can't remember the name anymore. What's the thing on the necklace made of Japur snip?
Japur snippet.
They have a close up of it.
It's a Japur snippet.
They have a close up of it, and it's amazing, and it's beautiful in her hands.
That is in one of those classic wipes. Yes, it's like a circle, and it just circles that, and then we're with the Empire.
It's amazing, and they're looking at the construction of the Death Star that Galen Erso has been working his ass off on. It's just cool. It's just cool to think that you got
good old Tarkin.
Yeah, they got the kind of Krennic I wouldn't say retcon, but anyway, the cool thing is they have the discussion, and I'm talking about Obi-Wan, Bail, and Yoda, and they have to hide the children. And whenever they talked about Leia's theme played, and it was so innocent. And then when they talked about where we're going to put the boy, and it's Force theme plays, and
you realize that conversation happens on the Tantive V4, but it happens on Naboo.
Yes, on that.
Never realized that before.
That's a good point.
They were dropping off. That happens. They're dropping off Padmé.
Yes. Wow.
And the quote unquote children. It's man. The neighbories really got the short end of the stick with all this.
Yoda then delivers the line, "Until the time is right, disappear we will," and it goes to something I think is going to be played into later, which is the mind wipe droid and C-3PO's mind being wiped.
Yep.
Have the protocol droid's mind wiped. Yeah.
Good.
I think we're gonna get a reversal on that. I just really am. I don't know. I don't have my hopes completely up again.
Yeah.
But it just really. It's kind of an easy way to. It's an easy excuse to go back to this movie too.
It is. I agree.
This is kind of random, but the mainline Star Wars comic right now, there's been like a lot of C-3PO and Vader scenes.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
really? Yeah. I haven't read it in a little bit.
Like, Vader's like getting 3PO to like translate for him. They're on like this planet with like these rock people.
Oh yeah.
And
I saw Alex cover that.
Yeah, and it's just cool. I mean, it's
That's crazy.
It's pretty interesting. I don't know if Vader even knows like who it is, but I think that could be like another. There's like three main things here in Revenge of the Sith that we can have tiebacks to, and that's Anakin's birth, Plagueis theory, and Palpatine cheating death, and now this C-3PO business.
It is. It's huge,
and I think that would make a lot of fans happy, like across the board. Like not even the ones who love these movies, just because right now there's like a lot of George Lucas love going on right now. Is. And I feel like people will be happy if there's really cool answers or like callbacks or tie-ins or whatever you want to call them. But at the time when we thought this was the end, this was a beautiful ending.
It was
like most beautiful last shot of Beru and Owen holding Luke.
Oh, it's amazing. And like one thing I want to bring up, Leia's upbringing is so pleasant, whereas Luke's is so grimy and just it makes sense for their characters too, because Leia's not entitled, she's just a rebel, she's just like Padme, and Luke then end up being kind of more entitled than Leia is, but in a different setting.
Well, it's like even though she might have had it comfortable at the beginning, her father was still like you read Leia, Princess of Alderaan, she thought her parents hated her for a long time when she was before she finally learned of the rebellion, and so Luke got to kind of really just have a child.
Yeah, you're right. Wow.
In kind of a more grimy place.
Not ideal.
The one who, I mean, he was a kid right up until he met Obi-Wan, you know?
Yeah. One thing I want to mention is how, for Luke in particular, it's not the Force theme. It is the main theme in The Setting Sun on Tatooine. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, it's the main theme. And it's an amazing bookend.
I think it's the Force theme.
Oh, I thought when he... I think when... Obi-Wan is going up on the Phantom Menace poop joke creature. I think it's the main theme, and then it becomes the Force theme.
Oh, is it? I
think it's a slower version of it, and then it goes to the.
Yeah, it's like the same that kind of plays whenever you first meet.
Yes, exactly.
When you're at that homestead. So it's kind of like a mirror.
I watched the panel,
the entire end of it,
where they talked about that being Luke's theme originally.
Yeah,
was that David S. Collins?
Yep.
That's David S. Collins.
What a legend, by the way.
Oh my god, and a G. A G. But I guess if anyone hasn't listened to that, listen to the soundtrack podcast. It's amazing on Star Wars. The best bookend of all Star Wars, and the end. It's and I think Eric mentioned it's possibly the best ending to all the movies. I think. I mean, did you say that? I agree with that. It's such a. It paints the picture for what's going to happen in the future, and it's amazing. And the sunset being set, the sunset being set. It is late, guys. We've been going on for almost 3 hours and 10 minutes.
The sun has set a long time.
Yeah, it has. I guess to kind of close the conversation, hope everyone takes away something with this episode, and I know just from talking with you two, I kind of want to go back and listen, because there's a lot of good things that are said, especially about this movie and what it could mean for the overall saga, and it's definitely the most dense of all the Star Wars movies in regards to lore and story. Definitely, 100%. Most dense.
Absolutely.
That's why we can talk about it for 3 hours and 10 minutes. I mean, really.
It's longer than the movie. It's a beautiful story. It's, I think, the truest version of, like, you had to tell a certain story for the prequels. There's critiques about starting with Anakin as a child. I kind of wish I could talk about that, but I'm not going to. Yeah. But just in terms of, like, what this movie had to deliver and what it did and what it meant for, like, the future or the past, and now our future, like this future, which is the present of the movies. Like, it just, I don't know. It was a good ending.
Yeah.
And
it's still a good ending.
Yeah.
It's a great ending to the prequels.
It felt complete. It all felt complete at that time before the Disney acquisition.
And that's fine. Like it still feels complete. I mean, really, if you watch it just if you watch it just the original trilogy, it ends so nice with them on Endor. If you watch the prequels, it ends with the continuation of the story. And I have a feeling when The Rise of Skywalker ends, we might be seeing a whole different tune. We might say that might be the best ending, just because of the
if they bring any sort of Haydens or Ewans of the worlds back, I'm gonna be like, well, this is the best ending now.
Yeah.
I guess to close this out, I have some things here, and I wanted to just what will the Rise of Skywalker answer? You know, I wrote, I hope it answers the idea of Palps being Anakin's dad. It would make Ben's turn and redemption so much better, and the Rise of Skywalker will deal with how the final Skywalkers will rise above their evil creator. I think that's the turn. I think the Rise of Skywalker is ultimately them rising above Palpatine and finally ridding him of that evil. And there's one thing Gerry has always brought up in the show, and I don't mean to quote you on it, but the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities that some would consider unnatural, and Gerry's always mentioned, I want to see some unnatural stuff. Like, I want to know what that means. What does that mean?
That is how, I think that's how Palpatine's there. People are like, you know, I know everyone's kind of like, we don't want it to be a clone, we don't want him to be, like, resurrected, we want it to be a spirit, whatever you think you don't want, just wait. The execution is everything.
Yes.
They could do the thing that you think is the stupidest idea, and it could end up being the thing that we all love.
Exactly.
Most, you know, and that's just, I go back to that line. The dark side is it's a pathway to many abilities some consider to be.
Oh, it's awesome.
Show me how unnatural it can get. No,
Definitely.
I give you permission.
Yeah, I mean, you can even base that logic of what you just said to the titles. Like, I remember hearing the titles of the new movies at first and being like, or especially Force Awakens.
Yes.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you watch the movie and you go, okay.
Oh, yeah,
and
makes
then
sense.
Last Jedi, you're like, okay. And then
I will not be the Last Jedi.
and then you watch it and you go, okay. This one I'm just like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know.
You've proven
I'm
it.
like,
You've proven
I'm just
it.
gonna like go with it now because I think it could be multiple things because I think the titles have done a good job of being like a general thing and a specific thing.
Yep.
And
it's very true.
Still a lot of room for speculation.
And then
Phantom Menace is a great title because it implies the Phantom, you know, the thing that's there that no one knows. You know, it's a lot of those.
yeah, and I don't know if y'all have seen like this, like I don't even know if you want to call it a meme, but like somebody put the 3 titles of this trilogy, the new trilogy, and it like crosses if you like the first, the second, the last. It's like The Last Skywalker.
Yeah.
And I was just like, bro.
That's amazing.
And I was like, that could still technically be
man.
Palpatine.
Yeah.
Technically. And it could also technically be Ben.
Yes.
So, I don't know. That would just be like the ring theory, like as a diagonal representation of the titles. It'd just be so epic and mind-blowing.
It would be amazing.
Again, not that important.
No.
But I just think...
It's huge, though. That is pretty big. I think that's pretty important. It's
at least a cool
because
observation.
they keep saying
sure.
it's the end of the Skywalker saga, which means I'm just like, are Skywalkers extinct after this point, or and then a lot of people are saying no, they're going to change
I think it's the happy ending.
Yeah, and they're like they're going to change the name of the Jedi, and I'm just like, I don't know though.
We'll see.
I don't know
about
because
that,
Jedi is so. When you hear that word, people who don't even like know anything about Star Wars go, "Oh, I know what a Jedi is." Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it would be a bold choice, but I think this is a movie that we can go back on literally in less than 3 months and watch it after seeing Episode 9
and Clone Wars.
And Clone Wars. Oh, that's true. So and then another couple of months after that,
and watch it again. Listen to
and then the Obi-Wan series.
Yeah,
just do 6 hours on the movie after that.
Yeah, and then you can say how important George's last cinematic contribution to Star Wars was. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's a thumbs up. And that's why it's
absolutely
all these reasons and many more that we couldn't get into. That's probably why currently it is my favorite Star Wars movie.
I'm so glad we had Eric here for this. This was amazing.
Yes,
this was.
I'm really glad that we finally got you on, Eric, because me and you, besides like talking, I didn't even get to talk to you whenever
it was weird interference
because like you couldn't hear me, but like. This is the first time me and Eric have been able to talk, guys, really, since Celebration, so it was really awesome to get to sit down and really dive into this stuff, for sure, because again, such a dense movie. And man, no, never be ashamed that this is your favorite.
Absolutely not.
It's a great one.
I just thought about my actual last sentence period on this movie.
What?
It's such a silly line, but it's what describes this whole entire the plot of, I guess, overall the sequel trilogy, and then the prequel trilogy, and then this movie. So you are blinded by love?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Everything Anakin does is because he's blinded by love.
Yeah, love for his mother, love for his wife. Or
I think the actual line is, "So love has blinded you."
Yeah, love has blinded you.
Yeah, and it truly did.
Yeah,
and I think that's the beautiful part of this story, because anyone or most people with a soul and a heart can identify with that.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Sometimes you do crazy things for something that you love or someone that you love, the
3-hour podcast.
Pay a whole bunch of money to go watch people talk about Star Wars at a convention.
Right. You know what I mean? Listen to a 3.5 hour podcast.
Exactly.
Or buy season tickets to a football game that costs $1,000+
it's the exact
dollars.
same
weird.
thing.
People criticize this is very random, but the trailer reaction video, it's constant criticizing and people being very uplifting. But I mean, if you weren't there, you don't understand it, and kind of like if you weren't in Anakin's situation, you wouldn't understand it either. You got to be open to that kind of thing.
It's almost
got to be open.
It's almost like Star Wars is about love or something.
Right. Something like that. But I just think, it's one of those lines that people cringe when they hear, but it is so representative of what's going on in this movie. So.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh man.
So
this was solid. I guess all we can do is just thank you for joining us, Eric. I will probably see you. I will definitely see you in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, you'll see me for Mandalorian.
And you'll see it probably tonight. Or I guess, when you're listening tonight. Yeah. But thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to the Bombad cast for having me.
You're going to have to make a Twitter now. I'm so sorry, but I know you have one, but you're going to have to make one.
I might have to delete that one and make a different one.
Make a Star Wars one. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life.
It's much more healthy to have a Star Wars one sometimes than if you mute the right people. So, no, I'm just...
No, I think this is your first step into a larger world. I really do think so.
Maybe so.
You're gonna have a couple of fans.
Thank you so much.
I'm telling you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you guys.
This sounds actually kind of critical. You're gonna be the only name on this Bombad buildup that people aren't gonna know. I'm being serious.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'll be disconnected from the Force, and then I will open myself to whoever wants
to talk and chat.
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't know who the Eric Kottemann is, then you got to get on the train right now. Okay, this is it starts. Get on now, or
until Twitter fandom.
I'm sorry, you're going to be left behind.
And not to, I am kind of a podcast nerd. The reason I'm not nearly as much as you guys, but the whole reason I think something that kind of elevated my Star Wars fandom was running into AMC and Collider and stuff like that.
Back in the day.
That's kind of what kind of
triggered it. Yeah.
Yeah, it lit the fire that
the
caused
conversation that
all that stuff inside me.
As a kid, you couldn't listen to that. That didn't exist.
Yeah.
But as an adult, and we're both going through our college years, that exists.
Yeah, I would do it when I had some downtime in college. I was like, this is awesome. There's people who talk about Star Wars every Thursday.
Yeah.
And now there's just a whole entire community that I can't even keep up.
No, it's impossible.
Yeah, there's a new one every day almost, it seems.
Yeah, so that shows you how
slowly raises our
hands too. But that shows how important this thing is to so many people, and you guys have a certain take on it. That your mascot is Jar Jar. That's very different.
It's very different.
But I appreciate it.
We like to be sore thumbs.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it will help in the long run.
Maybe getting a mod on.
Yeah,
I would love that. That's the ultimate dream.
What's the motto with you? Sorry, I just watched Lion King today with my 2-year-old.
With you.
I don't know what's the motto with.
Anyway, I guess to thank you, Eric, sincerely from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate it so much.
And go check out Owl's Nest, guys. Whenever it.
I will share the trailer again, and hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks we have our friend Kevin who did the writing for the movie and a lot of the production part of it too. He is in Australia. So he'll be coming back. We're going to work on a trailer together and get one more out for everyone. But stay tuned for Owl's Nest. We're so excited to bring that to you. And we've got some more fun things in the works that we've talked about as well. But
absolutely.
Real quick to plug who our next guest is going to be, and we are beyond excited to have this person on as well. It is going to be one of the one and only clubs. The person that actually got me into this community, I will honestly say that, and I'm sure for a lot of people listening, is going to be Alex Damon from Star Wars to Explain to talk about his favorite movie, A New Hope. So
awesome.
That is going to be full circle. I'm not gonna lie. That's what got my love. That's literally what got my love of Star Wars back, is watching Star Wars Minute when he very first started in must have been January of 16. I've been a Patreon since 2017. That's my dude. So I am.
Are you gonna have like an Obi-Wan Anakin or Obi-Wan Vader moment with him, where you're like, when I left you, I was but the learner.
No, because he's pretty much the master. So he's gonna always.
Alex is the master for sure.
But yes, that's our next guest. So look forward to the next episode of the Bombad Buildup. Jerry, you have anything you want to mention?
Just again, thank you, Eric, for coming on, and you know what? Just stay off of Twitter. It's not. No, but no. Eric seriously has been such a great guest tonight. Guys, get excited for Alex next week. This Bombad Buildup is just picking up steam. We are getting so close to Rise of Skywalker.
40 days.
So, to check us all out. Check out Scotty at what's your guys?
Scott Jarrow. Scotty Jarrow is my name on Twitter. For my students listening, I'm surprised you're actually listening to this whole thing. But for anyone else listening, thank you for joining. And find me on Twitter. Join the Bombad Fam Facebook group. Go to the Bombad Cast's Facebook page. Give us a like there. Definitely follow us on Twitter if you haven't yet already. We've got t-shirts coming out. I actually got some buttons already in. Jerry's daughter got a t-shirt that came in recently. Eric ordered his. I'm just kidding. He hasn't ordered his yet, but he's going to order it.
Hey, my challenge still stands. I want someone to get the most random piece of Bombad,
like a print.
Bombad merch that they possibly can. Like slap us on a tapestry for some reason.
And hang it in your bedroom or your dorm room.
Do it. Hang it in your castle. But anyway, no. Yeah, no, our Bombad swag store is open, guys, and I think they're still doing a 35% off. I don't know if they're still doing it by the time this recording comes out, but just go check. They're having sales all the time. So hopefully we'll be getting some more designs on there for you guys in the coming months.
Totally. But Jerry, where can the good people find you?
Well, you guys can find me at Jerry the Canon Junkie Gosh, you can't say "at" too many times when you're doing a Twitter.
No, you can't. It's all misleading and confusing.
So you can find me, Jerry the Canon Junkie, on Twitter at the Canon Junkie, and you'll hear a lot of my ramblings, kind of like tonight. Sometimes I talk about random things. I posted about the Scoop Troop today, which is actually Sunday from when you're hearing this. So, those of you, Scotty, you don't know that reference.
No, I'm kind of lame.
There you go.
Oh, I did see.
I'm letting stuff.
I saw it.
I'm letting stuff.
Oh, I saw your Twitter.
I'm letting stuff slip because
It's time. It's overdue. It is. It's overdue.
But anyway, yeah, guys. Whoa. I need some.
Okay.
Anyway, guys. Hey, this has been such a blast. Thank you guys all again for coming on, Eric and Scotty. If you don't have anything else to add, buddy. I think the good people should do a little something, shouldn't they?
What is that little thing they should do? Because I'm never going to say it right.
Well, if Scotty's not going to say it, then I guess I will. If you guys are still listening to this, God bless you, and stay Bombad.
I have to pee so bad, Jerry. Hold on. Oh, my God.
That's staying in. You tell me you recorded that.
Recording.